It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Well, 2013 is already getting a little long in the tooth here. It is the second day of January 2012, and we are live, ladies and gentlemen, on this Wednesday edition, and we will have open phones yet again today here in the new year after I cover the news. Obviously, you do know the news, don't you? $1 in government cuts for every $41 in taxes increased. We're going to explain why that is. See, once they get you in debt, you pay almost all your taxes to foreign banks on interest, and then the whole infrastructure implodes. And that's by design. And then after the infrastructure implodes, they come in and buy everything up with your money for pennies on the dollar, and people are too ignorant and too dumb running around drinking fluoride water and talking about Obama phones to be able to understand exactly what's happening to them. So $1 in cuts for every 41 in taxes. Deal means higher taxes on 77% of households in the country. I thought it was on the evil, greedy 2%. The 2%. That means the 2% that are making a couple $100,000 a year, not the billionaires that control trillions offshore. They're the ones that wrote all this. They're the ones that took the country over. But the Obama phone lady, she is never going to figure that out. That's why she's poor. That's why she's down and out, because she believes in the system. Congressional Budget Office adds $3.9 trillion more to deficit. And Paul Ryan votes yes. Cantor no. Is Boehner finished as Speaker of the GOP torn in half? You know, that's why the collectivists are so happy. They go, the GOP's over. It'll implode where, some western and southern states will be conservative, like Arizona and Texas, but the rest of it's ours. We've got people dependent. They actually brag about it. You see them in the news. And, yeah, because the globalists have bought off the Republican leadership. They've totally, absolutely bought them off. And that's why you're going to see the Congress pass total open borders, totally legal alien legalization, free health care for them, everything else. Citizens won't get it. It's already that way. That's why you're going to see the gun ban physically and make you turn them in. And they want to have a war with you. They've gone to Congress and said, we're dropping the hammer. Are you lined up? You like your insider trading money? You like your hookers? Good. We got photos with you with all of them. We're bringing America down. You don't do what you're told, you're dead. This is a foreign banking takeover. Our military is now under their control. We're now under NATO, UN, Bilderberg control. Now, it's so outrageous that if we speak out against it at the grassroots, they won't get away with it. But they're committed. They're imploding things now, so they've got to totally take over and pose as saviors as we kind of bounce down the cliff into oblivion. And the foreign banks, of course, that control the fraudulent stock market with all their high-frequency trading and all their put options and scams and plunge protection team, they boosted the stock market hundreds of points, the Dow Jones Industrial. So everyone goes, oh, good. Increasing taxes is good for an economy. It's like going into somebody who's dying of cancer or something, and they've got family flying into town to see them before they die, and the person's having trouble breathing, and they'll ask them, they say, you'll be dead in about an hour if we don't give you a bunch of adrenaline and drugs. You want these drugs? I'd actually been there when this was happening to somebody. They were having organ failure. And the family's like, yeah, shoot them up. And they just kept pumping adrenaline and drugs into them. And the guy's dad got there, got to see him, and then the guy passed out and died. They said he'll be dead in a few minutes. His veins have all closed. We can't even inject him anymore. So the bankers will do that. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It is the second day of January 2013. I am Alex Jones, your host. We are going to be here live for the next 3 hours. Former congressional fraud investigator Bob Fletcher, who was a Iran-Contra whistleblower and more, will be joining us to talk about the mafia nature and the complete criminal takeover of our government in the third hour. We will have open phones in the first and second hour and third hour today. You know, I hate to say, see, I told you so, but we talked about this months ago. Ron Paul has talked about it here on the broadcast a month ago or so. By the way, it's time to get Ron Paul back onto the crew. He said he wanted to come back on in the new year. We've all been on record because they even in Brazil and in other countries, in Japan, in Europe, 3 or 4 times the last few years, depending on the country, with the EU over them, they have said fiscal cliff, we're going to collapse if we don't increase taxes. This is how they got the taxes up to 80% on average in France, and then 75% on top of the money you keep if you're the, quote, top 2%. So the top 2% would be paying over 90% in taxes. Okay. They had a bunch of actors and people who are really the nouveau riche, the new rich, who were leaving. So now France is backing off and saying, okay, it'll only be a 50% tax on everybody who makes more than €1 million a year. So you pay all these taxes, and then if you keep $1 million over that, you make $10 million, you keep $2 million. You make 10 million euros, you keep 2 million, and they go, well, that's over $1 million, we're going to get 75% of that. So you'd have to make $10 million to make $500,000. I mean, does that really, quote, sound fair to all of you that love big government? And do you know that people that make that type of money are the folks that actually buy services and are the heart of the economy? But see, if you're a Rothschild or a Rockefeller or a Queen of England, they're all in giant tax-free foundations grandfathered that nobody else is allowed to set up. You can't set up a family partnership like Rockefeller Brothers Foundation and pay zero tax. They are allowed to. And Bill Gates was allowed to. And Warren Buffett was allowed to. They've been doing this since 1906 with the Sherman Antitrust Act, with Teddy Roosevelt, that they sold as a way to soak the robber barons, who were a bunch of exempt from the law, private armies of Pinkerton out murdering people en masse. I mean, they wanted your property from the 1850s on. They just had, you know, a trainload of armed troops show up, private troops, they'd come kill you. That's on record. So people started getting together, and the Rockefellers on record had a bunch of their people wiped out repeatedly. When towns would get together, when Pinkerton and others would go slaughter people, the towns would get together with their guns and go after them. So then in some cases they'd call the army in to back up the Rockefellers. I mean, our country has been through this over and over again. The globalists, the multinational corporations in Latin America and in Africa and in Burma and places, you can go look up 4,000 killed in British takeover of Burma, but back in like 98. I mean, there's all these examples where they set up a UN biodiversity zone and just went in and killed the natives. Earlier this year, the New York Times even reported, but back of the paper, that the UN in Central Africa and in South America, in different countries, would go in, and they're like, is it right the UN soldiers went in to the ancestral lands and burned down the villages and shot people? And they're like, well, it is for the earth. Of all places, it's in Uganda, where they say, we need to invade because of a guy who hadn't been seen in 6 years. That's just the cover. Oh, we're there because of Coney. And meanwhile, the UN's lining them up and killing them. In fact, when you guys type in UN killing people in Uganda, for UN killing villagers in Uganda as part of environmental zones. I mean, what's frustrating is I know the UN is a murder crew. The most murderous we've ever seen after Mao Zedong. I know the globalists literally line up villages and just mow the people down. And it's even in the news. And then I got to watch Obama up there crying over Sandy Hook with no tears, completely fake. I mean, I know what the globalists stand for. I know who they are. I know what their fruits are. And I told everybody, I said, they're going to massively increase taxes across the board. Scores of new taxes are going in right now. Scores on everybody. They are going to continue to get us in debt. Yeah, there it is. Armed troops burn down homes, kill children to evict Ugandans in the name of global warming. Neo-colonial land grabs carried out on behalf of World Bank-based British company. UN troops pull up, block the roads, the mercenaries go in and do the actual killing, just like in the case of Uganda. You heard the UN drop the ball with 1 million dead? They didn't drop the ball. They took out the ruling class Christians, killed almost, some estimates are over 1 million, but the official estimate under 1 million, 800,000 plus Christians, who were the 10% minority, who own most of the country. They just came in with the UN and foreign mercs and the majority animist, that's rock-worshipping, animal-worshipping group, and just slaughtered everyone. I mean, there's video and photos online of the UN troops chopping children up and burning them over fires. I just... And when I see Miss America or Miss USA, because they're told do this to win, this is what the judges want to hear. They go, I just want to thank the UN. I just want to serve the UN. The UN is just so great. Oh, Angelina Jolie. And then you're getting your hair cut. My son was getting his hair cut, and I'm listening to this woman talking, and she's going, I just can't wait. You know, I want to go to college and be a UN delegate, and I want to be an ambassador someday, and I want to save people through the UN. And she's got stars in her eyes. And I'm like, the UN runs giant mass murder operations. And she just looks at me like I'm a terrorist. And she's not a bad person. It's just they believe a fantasy like a 2-year-old that believes a fat guy in red pajamas is really coming down the chimney. And it's not true. So I knew 100% what was going to happen with the fiscal cliff. I said, the Republicans will sell out because they were already sold out. It's like saying Beelzebub is going to sell out to the devil. Beelzebub is the devil. It's like saying, a grizzly bear is going to sell out to the bears. He is a bear. It's like saying a prostitute is going to become a hooker. It's like saying water is going to become wet. Or fish are going to start swimming in the sea. Or sheep are going to start braying and buying. Obama, Obama. And the problem is most people that know about this get cynical and go, well, the world's run by evil. The public's too dumb to help. I'll just join the evil. When you do that, everything collapses. Okay, and you will be destroyed as well. And the world is giving into evil right now. Before I get into the fiscal cliff numbers, Mexico roughly has 3 times, and it's only about half the geographic area. Mexico has 3 times the natural resources that the United States has. And Mexico, most cities outside tourist areas have sewage running down the street with children walking around with their ribs sticking out. And it looks like the soul's been sucked out of the people because they've been under tyranny so long that their very essence has been pulled out of them. That's what corruption does. And we're going under that, where the elites live in their walled, armored cities, and they're not safe either. And we're all out here in squalor. And the establishment says they're doing this consciously by design. That's what Agenda 21 is turning civilization on its head and building civilization around the destruction of civilization, or a boot stomping on the human face forever. A society that becomes more ugly, more trampled and being trampled upon, a.k.a. 1984. So I've watched this done in the third world over and over again. There's an IMF World Bank manual with 112 points that's public since 2002 when it got leaked, when Stiglitz left. How they engineer it, how they collapse societies. It's all a blueprint. So I'm going, okay, and then it's like when you're reading Bambi to your kid. Okay, honey, I was reading my 4-year-old. I go, this is a sad part where the mommy deer gets shot. Turn the page. Mommy gets shot on the next page. I've read Bambi probably 20 times. I mean, I know I probably had it read to me 20 or 30 times, and then I've read it 20 or 30 times. I know how Bambi goes. See, I know how this goes. It's not my opinion. They're going to bankrupt us, and the equation is about 90% of all the taxes will go to offshore banks, who will then use it to come in and develop, but only develop to drive down wages and turn green fields around their bases into squalid people living in cardboard boxes with 1/3 of the children born in Mexico City with a disorder where they have no upper brain. They can breathe, but there's no brain. And the parents love them and take care of them, but that's how toxic the waste is. You never hear environmentalists talk about that because that's their program. In fact, Henry Kissinger documents came out where they said, ship the toxic waste to the third world. Well, forget that. There was one with Summers. Larry Summers put out a memo, I think 10 years ago, or longer, it was under Clinton, saying, let's ship the toxic waste down there to get rid of Brazilians. I mean, these people just sit around publicly writing, let's send stuff to Brazil. You know, that'll get... I'm going to check the quote. I'm 90% sure it was Summers. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a maximum red alert. Maximum red alert. We knew this was coming. They are moving on every front. We're going to get to that maximum red alert in a moment. Again, when I say something, I always double check it. Yeah, Larry Summers in 1991, and Wikipedia has a link to the official memo that he put out. We'll put that on screen. Go ahead and scroll down, but it's also in mainstream news, where he said, let's ship our toxic waste to Brazil. That'll help get their population down as well. And he goes over the reasons, well, you need to be gotten rid of. So, again, this is their attitude about you. And they're going to raise taxes where you're not going to be able to live in the countryside. They're going to live in the countryside. You'll need to have tens of millions to even live in the countryside soon if they have their way. They're tearing up roads all over the country while building NAFTA superhighways that are UN zones you've got to pay taxes on. Oh, and by the way, Perry just reauthorized that even though the legislature voted it down, what, twice? But separately on national news, they'd say, there's no NAFTA superhighway, even though it's all Department of Transportation, official North American Union agreements. I've got clips of CNN going, Ron Paul is literally insane. He is imagining something called a NAFTA superhighway. When we had billboards up all over Texas announcing it, and they're building it, and taking over our existing roads to pay for the building of it, putting toll roads on. I mean, it's like, hey, we should arm our teachers like Israel. Israel doesn't arm teachers. That's a lie. Well, no, it's admitted. Here's Israeli news. Nope, no such thing as Israeli news. Hey, here's the memo where they say ship toxic waste to Latin America to kill their people. But they want to open the borders to let them come in to drive down wages here. It's not because they care about the Latin Americans. It's because they want to destroy all our countries. Shut up, racist. But no, they say they want to ship the toxic waste down there so 1/3 of their kids are born with this one disorder where they have literally no upper brain and have no brain waves. All they have is a brain stem. Be quiet, racist. Oh, what, next you're going to say the brain exists? I mean, this is just how the system responds. And ladies and gentlemen, I was looking at the new issue of the magazine that about a week and a half ago, we finished writing my letter, editor's letter to the public, when Feinstein had not put her bill out yet, where I say they will physically come for the guns. Because I knew about their statements and what they'd said previously and how Handgun Control Inc. and others had said, look, we're going to physically get him in his next re-election. They don't just brag to each other. This is a militarized, mercenary, globalist group. These aren't liberals. That's their cover. And when they say something, folks, they're going to try to do it when they're talking to each other. When you get these mob dons talking to each other, this is battle plans, like a general in a briefing room saying, you know, the airstrikes are going to be here. Get me the satellite intel. I mean, when they say it, they mean it. And so the new issue is 2013, the year America dies. They're going to bankrupt the economy. They're going to bring in by executive order carbon taxes. They're already shutting down the power plants. They're going to get rid of the borders. Republicans have already announced that because the mega banks want it. They've done it in every other region, every other country. Everything you're seeing happen in the EU is going to happen here. They want to collapse everything. They want you poor, to totally control you. Plus, they like it. They love living on armored hills outside the city, watching you live in cardboard boxes and watching your children die. It's beautiful to them. It makes them enjoy their wealth more when you're poor. There's a word for it. It's called total wickedness, total evil. Now, here's the new article, total red alert, and I'm going to explain something to you. No one... I listen to mainline conservative talk radio, and they're like, oh, yeah, they want to bring back the old thing where you can't manufacture semi-auto anymore. No, no, no. The bill that Obama is supporting that's introduced tomorrow when Congress comes back in, its public bill, says we have the discretion to ban all guns and make you turn them in if we want. It's got that footnote in it. Now, they don't care what federal courts rule. They're going to do an executive order if that doesn't work. Here is the red alert. Red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert. And I'm going to have Nemo add to this the point that it's the nationwide plan. Illinois moves to outlaw modern firearms and criminalize owners. All semi-autos or any other guns they want banned in Illinois. That's why they always did the FOID card. Every other country, first they register, then they take. And here it is. Illinois state president, that's the state president, not some little low-level, John Cullerton will reportedly introduce a draconian bill today in the Illinois legislature that will effectively ban all modern firearms, criminalize their owners, and subject their owners to confiscation by the Illinois State Police. Yeah, that's who they use. Old veteran has a heart attack, doesn't renew their card, day one they're SWAT teamed. Now they got your list, they're coming for you in Illinois. And we're going to come back and break this down for you and then get into the fiscal takeover that the Republicans sold out to. Of course they sold out. It was their job under foreign bank control. I want to be clear about this, again, for listeners who just tuned in for the first time listening on news stations all over the country. I know my broadcast has sounded radical over the years, and so people thought, man, that guy's crazy. Am I crazy now? No, the elites are out of control. Tyranny looks crazy to somebody that's not a tyrant. And so I understand why hearing me report on stuff before it all unfolded sounded crazy. But I was desperately trying to warn people to stop us from getting to this point. But I've always said that once the real tyranny starts unfolding, and Ron Paul has said this as well, that if we did our job and warned people, that once it happened, our credibility would go way up. And then we'd have a chance to beat them. But politics now is not like something that even if you're involved that's at a distance and, you talk with your buddies at the golf course or around the water cooler. Folks, it's time to drop everything and get really aggressive or it's over. Okay, the globalists know that America was really starting to wake up to them. So what do you do if you're a slave master and your slave starts getting out of line? What does a pimp do? America, it really is the story of a prostitute. This beautiful, healthy farm girl thinks she'll go to Hollywood and be a star. She gets there, works at McDonald's, can't get the star job she wants. And they ask her, do you want to be in pornography? And then pretty soon she's a prostitute. And by the way, that's how show business works, period. I've never even tried to be in movies, but have been offered a few times to be in some pretty big films by Tommy Pilata and Richard Linklater. And so I didn't have that experience there. But then I got invited to go try out for some other movies. And some of the people associated with the films didn't even know that I was already an established radio talk show host and already, on, I think, about 15 stations at the time. This had to be about 2000, and I was still pretty skinny then. It looked a lot more attractive than I do now. And they point blank at one of these casting studios asked me if I wanted to be in porn. And I was like, are you kidding? And that's just when you're at another meeting, people wanting you to be in a TV show, and then you're walking in the parking lot and somebody next door goes, hey, come on over here. And it's a mainline system at that time associated with the city. And you walk in there, and there's all these people lined up trying to be stars, and right in front of you, they're asking women if they want to be in porn. And they're asking you if you want to be in porn. See, that's how ubiquitous this is. But I've already gone off into a porn analogy. I never told that story. That's how screwed up this is. And everybody wants to be a star because you're nobody if you're not a star. Let me tell you something. Once you've been in movies, been around movies, they're totally unhappy people. It's nothing. It's nothing to be Brad Pitt. It's nothing to be any of these people. There's nothing. This is life. This is what it is. What's rewarding is being truthful and honorable and having children and raising a family and being strong. The fame, the garbage, it means nothing. But they control people with it. But getting back to the analogy of America like a young farm girl from Kansas. Beautiful black hair, green eyes, just perfect complexion, perfect proportions. She goes to California because everybody told her she ought to be a movie star. She was so pretty. She was so smart. And that's just what she should do. 5 years later, she is a heroin addict and a $20 hooker that nobody even wants to have sex with. And then she's OD'd dead at the morgue. That's happened tens of thousands of times in the last 50 years in Los Angeles alone. If she would have gone out, had an economy, found a man, had a business, would have had children, would have had a life, would have been a grandmother, would have fully fulfilled her destiny of being a wholesome human, wrecked, destroyed by Hollywood. And you know how those pimps work. They tell the young women, well, we can get you in movies, but first you got to prove yourself. You got to go out and turn some tricks. You're going to have some sex with some people. Plus, you're going to like it. They got money and stuff. And so the 18-year-old woman, beautiful, unpilfered, might have lost their virginity. These women go out and they try to get into the nastiest forms of sex, try to make themselves like it so that they can then be in movies. It's like learning how to be a sword swallower or a fire blower or something. I'm telling you, folks, this is how it works. I'm not going to tell you any stories. I'm just going to tell you that's how it works. These women try to learn how to hurt their bodies, how to do things that they don't like, so they can be a star and make $2,000 per film having somebody tear their body open. And see, that's America. Once they get you on the plantation, once they get you as a sharecropper, once they get you on welfare, in the criminal justice system, once they get you under their control, under their socialist health care, now they can tell you, hey, we got to kill old people to pay for young people. How's that sound, young people? Yeah, kill people so I get a job. See, that's what collectivism's all about, being under people's control, where the state controls what movies are made, where the state controls what films are made. And with these evil people, because I've run into them and been around them in all state history, it's the enjoyment of hurting innocents. It's the enjoyment of having, like cattle cars delivered to Hollywood, all the young, gorgeous women of America, and men now, pile off to walk in where seedy, hunchback, demonic men and women sit there and poke at them and prod at them and say, what are you going to do? And these stars are told, okay, clean my house and do this and that and literally sit here while I do horrible things to you. You know, I mentioned this yesterday. I'm not even going to get into the ton of stuff they do. And the most evil, because they control the idea of being stars, a fiat, nothing fraud, and they control the fiat Federal Reserve notes. They get the whole world on fake dreams and fake money. The whole world by these magicians, these fraudsters, these Bernie Madoff, Ken Lay types. And the whole world is run by these people now. Mafia criminals, where the very worst rise to the top. You know, the film The Godfather is actually based on a composite of true stories. You know, Frank Sinatra, you name it, it's all in there. That's a true story. The Godfather is a true story. It's a composite, Mario Puzo's. And in it, it's the story of the old New York Godfather. They want to run all sorts of dirty stuff. Underage hookers, heroin. And he says, I'm not going to be part of it. So they shoot him. And then they get what they want. And they say, well, all right, we'll just keep it in the black neighborhood. They're animals anyways, let them lose their souls. And that's why those zones have been so destroyed, because they were picked as the red light district, as a way to hurt those people. And the same thing has now been done to everybody. You know, when I was growing up, if we wanted party beer, we had to drive into Dallas and go into the black neighborhood, and we can walk right into a liquor store. If you were 14 years old, driving with your 16-year-old buddy, walk right into the black liquor store, and they'd sell you alcohol, and cops would watch you walk right out of the liquor store with beer or vodka or whatever, because they were all getting paid off in Dallas, Texas. See, that's what crime's all about. They make things illegal so they can get a cut of it. And anybody that's lived in a crime-run city knows that. The naive people, mainly the churchgoers, who really think the world is what's going on in their little church, they are totally blind to this entire situation. But 100 times or more, I'd jump in the back of the pickup truck with my older buddies, and we'd drive into South Dallas. You could hear guns going off in the background quite a few times, and people try to mug you and everything else just to get beer so we could have a party and get the cheerleaders over. And we'd drive back to the rich neighborhood we lived in by the golf course, and everybody'd get drunk. But the point is that that's just 1/100th of the stuff that goes on out there. And corruption isn't cute. It's sick. It's horrible. Let me tell you what corruption is. It's a little family-owned restaurant where the organized crime comes in and says, I want you to hire this person for me here, and I want you to pay me 20% of all your profits, and my guy's going to make sure. And you got to sit there while their thug comes in a few hours a day and tells you what to do. And then the thug wants to have sex with your daughter. So the thug rapes your daughter one night in the parking lot, and you beat the brains out of the guy that did it, and the police come and arrest you and tell you that you're going to go to death row because you killed one of their guys. And see, they don't want you having a gun to protect yourself from them. And I'm going to get into the fiscal cliff and open the phones up and everything else, but you've got to understand how this works. And America was like a beautiful supermodel that looked like Wonder Woman. There's countries and ships, we call them women. That's why the analogy fits. And now we're a zombie crack whore in the back of a flat with bed bugs feeding on us and cigarette burns and cuts all over us, and almost all the hair is falling out, and she's got double black eyes, and the pimp is running a needle up into her vein to give her an overdose and get rid of her. That's how they get rid of him. He's running. But see, we haven't quite got to that point. There's always a point where the hooker goes, I'm going back to Kansas. You know, she's 6 months into it. She's got diseases. She's had to have an abortion. She wants to get off the drugs. She wants to go home to mommy and daddy, and he walks in, and he knocks her teeth out. She falls down, blood coming out. Takes out a coat hanger and starts beating her. Locks her up for a week in a closet. Don't cry, just like Milwaukee when the cops were there. Jeffrey Dahmer was authorized to do what he was doing. Nobody's coming to help you little kids, and nobody's coming to help you lady. And they lock her up in there and half starve her to death, and he comes back and says, I'll give you some food, but don't you ever try to leave me again. And a year later, she's dead on a dirty mattress. And that's what they're going to do to America, just like they've done to Nigeria and Brazil. They're going to take us and they're going to squeeze us out, and they're going to strangle America because they like it. They like watching that beauty go out of your eyes. They like putting fluoride in your water and mercury in your shots. When globalists walk into restaurants and see all the diseased-looking zombie little kids with the souls already sucked out of them, they love it. And they're going to do it to all of you. They're going to take their time real good on all of you unless you wake up and realize who they are. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you who they are. Because most people that know this stuff are cowards, and they decide to join the evil. They decide to serve this force because when you are smart enough to know about it, you learn about it, you go, well, I'm going to play ball. The only way to beat this is to not play ball with it. Now let's take Illinois. Famous state. Millions of hardworking immigrants from Poland and Germany and Ireland and Scotland went there, and Italy. And they took Chicago down with Prohibition, 10 years of the gangsters being able to make hundreds of millions of dollars a month. And that was, in those days, equivalent of billions a month. And they took it over, and it's been their town ever since. And we're on the radio there in Chicago. And when I open the phones up, I first want to give folks there a chance. They've taken all your guns in Chicago. Now they want to do it system-wide in Illinois. Now they want to do it system-wide in Illinois. And how's that working out for you? 500-plus murders last year, and people getting mugged when 3-4-time felons are out there with guns. Nobody's going to stop the felons. The highest crime rates are where they take the guns. And now Illinois moves to outlaw modern firearms and criminalize owners. Illinois State President John Cullerton will reportedly introduce a draconian bill today, and now it's happened, in the Illinois legislature that will effectively ban all modern firearms, criminalize their owners, and subject their guns to confiscation by the Illinois State Police. They're not the Illinois State Police. They're the mafia enforcers. The proposed... Oh, yeah, when the mafia has been running stuff for 80 years, they wear uniforms. The proposed outlawing of firearms was confirmed by the NRA's Illinois rep, according to Robert Farrago, writing for the Truth About Guns website. The move coincides with a federal effort by Dianne Feinstein to introduce legislation outlawing all semi-automatic firearms and imposing de facto confiscation. And the bill will also shut down gun ranges. It gets into that, and Kurt's adding more to this article right now at Infowars.com. Red linked, red alert. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that's why you shouldn't be into all the stuff that's corrupt out there, because they're gateways. When you watch porn, you're aiding them hurting all these innocent young women, where they try to make it look so glamorous. Most of those women end up dead or in prison. Look it up. When you aid this government, you're helping them run murder operations right now in Africa and Latin America, where they come into villages with helicopters and fire rockets. I just showed you the New York Times earlier. Rockets into their houses. Oh, you're not going to hear Angelina Jolie talk about how that's bad. She goes to those countries and calls for the invasions. Did you look her up? Do you know she's a devil worshiper? Talks about how much she loves death and the devil. Wears a blood amulet around her neck with blood in it. Take one look at that woman and tell you she wishes she was a vampire. Spiritually, she is. You notice all the mass shooters. Son of Sam, Ramirez, the Night Stalker. The last two shooters, New York with the fireman, Lanza, if you believe that story. All of them admitted devil worshipers. All of them devil worshipers. Devil worshipers are our problem. Devil worshipers. Let me explain something to you. Criminals, people that are forced into it because, oh, you were late to class, you're going to juvenile hall. Now they beat you up if you don't join the gang. That's just the muscle of the psychopaths. But the real kingpins, the real king rats, they need to be dealt with. Good men are there to stomp the guts out of the psychopaths politically. But if they start the physical fight with us, it's up to us to make sure they can't keep hurting innocent people. It's up to us to stand up against these people, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to break down for you who the enemy is, so you know. Who's going to help those children? Who's going to help those women? Who's going to help all those people? I am. I'm standing up. What about you? I'm standing up for the kids they're aborting. We're winning that fight, politically. We can win if we just get up on our legs, get up off our butts. We can win. We can save the innocents, but you got to go after the evil. By the way, the NRA is reporting, we've got links to it at Infowars.com, that there's a good chance this total semi-auto gun ban, banning of shooting ranges, SWAT teaming of gun owners will pass the Illinois legislature. and then it'll take 5 years to beat it in court. Federal court, just ruled, hey, you can't deny people the right to keep and bear arms. You can't deny them the right to concealed carry. And their answer is, oh, really? Really, Mac? You heard of Al Capone? We'll do whatever we want. These people are our slaves. They've all got bodyguards, the rest of it. Incredible article up at Infowars.com. And police all over the country, on record, have been training to confiscate firearms for a long time. There's another big article. Remember we did this 6 months ago, a video with Rob Dew, a special report, U.S. military training to kill Americans that don't turn in guns in their own Army training manual. We have the latest on that up at Infowars.com. Obama would call on military to disarm Americans during national emergency. And we've got a police lieutenant talking about how they're training for the rollout of martial law. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. They tell the police this to gauge and watch you to see who says they won't go along with it. It's part of a profiling operation. But all over the United States, they're setting up, quote, gang checkpoints now, where they set up highway checkpoints, ransack your car, and take photos of your tattoos. That's in the Associated Press. I'm going to be getting to that. I mean, this is just, it's on. The Homeland Security was set up for gun owners, veterans, conservatives. They're going to take America down. They're going to bring us into a depression. And you think 50 million on food stamps is bad? How about 100? How about 200 million? Even if you don't like the globalist, you're going to go to them on your knees because they're going to run your life. This is the mafia takeover of America. This is the breaking of America. And that's why they report Senate passes deal means higher taxes on 77% of households. And coming up the next hour, we have the clip of Obama pledging nobody under $250,000 a year would have a tax increase. Folks, he's raised more than 10 different taxes on people different ways. But see, as long as you get an Obama phone, it's okay. He'd never lie to you. Fiscal cliff deal, $1 in spending cuts for every 41 in tax increases. And, of course, Paul Ryan voted for it. Romney's owned by the same bank, so's Paul Ryan. This is a plan. These people are in charge because they are globalist. And only fully waking up to it will save us. You tune into mainline conservative talk radio, they're like, oh, yeah, the Democrats will get it going for our guns. And Rand Paul's like, yeah, let them raise taxes. That means they'll lose the next election. The fix is in most areas, bud. There's election fraud. The Congress engages in insider trading publicly. The UN runs around lining up villagers, blowing their heads off to take their property. And nobody cares. Well, nobody's going to care about you, America. All these so-called men that... yeah, did you hear about the game? Yeah, he didn't do too well. And these guys like look at each other and go, oh, you know a lot about football. You're really manly. Yeah, you're real manly, sport. You're going to have everything you got taken. Let's go out to break with Dianne Feinstein, letting you know how it all works. Here she is saying, Mr. and Mrs. America, get ready to have your guns taken. Here it is.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein worked for more than a year to get the assault weapons bill passed in the face of ferocious opposition from the National Rifle Association. She says she got the best she could.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that.
And now she's got the votes, and Illinois can't wait to pistol whip every gun owner, literally. Knock your teeth out and teach you the mafia runs your life. We've got a audio clip of a man that says he's a police lieutenant. I don't need to deny that because he sounds credible, and I have it all over the news. They're preparing for gun confiscation and saying they're getting ready to come take our guns. So now, I mean, it's just all out in the open. We have an article where the Pentagon admits it. But I want to open the phones up for police, specifically if you're training for civil unrest and gun confiscation and what you're being told. Only police. And then after that, after we take a few calls from them, folks have been begging to hear from Obama supporters. And Obama supporters can call in normally when the phones are open. Not many of them end up doing it. And they seem to call in and go, well, I just don't like Romney. And I'm like, don't you get it? Obama was the heir apparent. Romney was like the placeholder, the dummy, the decoy. like a dummy that Obama fought with. Obama's a puppet too, but they want him to do it because the left loves it when he orders torture or wireless wiretapping or murdering people in, U.S. military invading all over Africa, every African country. I mean, they think that's really cool because he's part black, and I mean, it's cool. I mean, his dad was reportedly Kenyan or part Kenyan. I mean, it's over. I mean, he could poach the brains of small children and eat them for breakfast. It'd be beautiful because look, he's got melanin in his skin. I mean, it's okay. It's trendy. I mean, it's really cool. Obama won. Yeah, we won. You know, the people that are into that stuff. And if Romney would have won, it'd be the same agenda. And you'd have a bunch of Republicans going back to sleep, running around going, hey, we won, we won. Well, Romney wants our guns, we'll turn them in. Well, Romney. But see, they don't need to play that anymore because America is more than 50%, quote, minority now. And they've got around 90% of the, quote, minorities voting for Obama because, I mean, obviously he's not a racist white person. And obviously owning a gun means you're in the Klan. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but doesn't matter. I mean, it's true because they said so. And so that is the la-la land that we've entered. So I want to give the number out for police officers only to specifically call in about this, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. And congressional fraud investigator and Iran-Contra whistleblower Bob Fletcher will be joining us to talk about all this. In the third hour, we'll also have open phones as well. Make sure Fletcher knows. He knows he's coming on to talk about the gun grab and all the tyranny in Congress, right? Okay, he does know that good because he can talk about so much. What an interesting person. But again, not just politically, in my gut, I'm totally freaked out because I have good instincts. And they are just like a firehouse alarm going off. I mean, I'm jumping out of bed, at 5:30 in the morning now, having no trouble, not feeling sleepy. I could work myself to death if I didn't control myself because I realize I have actually gone up against mass murdering, total evil criminals who plan a total takeover, a purge, you name it, because I know going along with them won't save us. They plan to totally gut America. Once they get the guns, they're going to bring us into total depression, and that's why they're going for this right now. And I pray to God that all the brain-numb, entranced people out there will break out of their trance right now and realize the power you have. Because if you telegraph the message to the criminals that, hey, we know you're criminal, we know you're insider traders, we know you work for foreign banks, we know you ship in narcotics. They do all this publicly now. We know you're murderers that run Al-Qaeda, we know you staged 9/11. They may be forced to back off. But if they think you're going to go along with it, the reason they're so arrogant is they're about to pull false flags. I mean, I can just tell you right now, false flags are probably in the offing as we speak. They pulled the trigger on operations that'll be happening very soon unless we get the word out. 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Police straight ahead. Stay with us. It is certainly an extremely dark day for our republic. Illinois has introduced legislation, the head of their state house, to outlaw all modern firearms, all semi-auto handguns, rifles, I guess revolvers too, and outlaw shooting ranges. It is just an outright statewide ban of almost everything. And they've got the FOID cards to know everybody in the state who's got them to make you turn them in. Total Red Alert, Infowars.com. Also, Obama would call on military to disarm Americans during national emergency. That's in all the executive orders and the training manuals, all the proof. The military en masse, gearing up with 400,000 auxiliary trained soldiers for gun confiscation here in this country. Absolutely insane. Army manual FM 3-3940. Put out in 2010, updated with the gun confiscation. In fact, the main mission now of the National Guard is shutting down cities, taking over communications. That's your local radio and TV, and coming down your street, just like they did in Katrina as a drill. And as ABC News reported, don't turn them in, then you pull the trigger and kill an American. That's a quote by the Army officer. And they've got the clergy response teams there ready to tell everybody to turn their guns in. There's Rob Dew's original report, video report that I wrote with him, put together with him. Just making the point that I can vet it because I did the research on it. 1,276,000 views, 21 minutes long. Everyone needs to go see it. And the report is from July 16th, 2012, or half a year ago. 6 months ago, troops ordered to kill Americans who don't turn in their guns, and it's all in the official manuals. Even how to deal with your dead bodies and how to process your corpses, how to take daddy to one area of the camp for forced labor where mommy and the girls and boys go. This is the absolute total evil of the foreign banks that have seized the country. And if you're a new listener going, this is scary, I run into so many people who go, man, I can't listen to your show. It's scary because I go look it up and it's true. Aren't you glad we're here on the air? The fact that we're on over 140 stations shows we can beat this. As things get worse, I get put on more stations. Because people go, wait, this is true. We gotta save America. Why haven't they killed me yet? Because it'll make everybody pay more attention to what I've said. It'll make everybody listen to me. It'll underline, it'll highlight, it'll put 15 exclamation points behind everything I've said. And look, I'm ready, okay? I don't want to die, believe me, but it's in God's hands. I am at peace. I'm at peace when it comes to being attacked, set up, destroyed, whatever the case is. I've given it to God because there's no future anyways if we don't beat them. Okay? It's very, very simple. You know, I liken it to some of the true stories where a ship has capsized. There's been a lot of cases of this, and people are caught in inner bulkheads, and the water's slowly rising, and there's women and children in there. And you've seen this in movies reenacted, and multiple men go and drowned trying to get out, and finally one of them finds a passage out, holding their breath 5 minutes to find a passage back through and to get rescued and to get people, you know, in there to save the women and children, or to find a blowtorch to come cut their way through on the top. And it's the same thing. I am in the tunnel, underwater, folks, trying to get out of here to get back and cut into the bulkhead and get people out. If I die, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to sit here with women and children as the water rises like a rat hearing them scream and cry. I'm in the tunnel right now, folks, swimming as hard as I can. And getting out of this thing means you waking up. You are Alex Jones making it to the other end, finding the blowtorch or calling the Coast Guard and getting in there and cutting through and getting the people out. You've got to help me because we're all together, folks. You right now are in that bulkhead with the water coming in. And you're like, man, this is scary. Yeah, the water is rising. You're like, but it's scary. Okay, it's scary. We got to swim out of here. But there's all these different directions. We don't know if we're ever going to find oxygen. We know we're going to die here. So I'll go straight, you go left, you go right. You know, how many men are there here? We got to go. We got to go. But we could die. Look, we're going to die anyways. Don't you get it? The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. They're not going to move slow in the takeover anymore. Homeland Security was designed and set up the whole time from day one for gun owners, conservatives, libertarians. That was all going on under Bush. The conservative sites just wouldn't pick up on it because it didn't compute. Then under Obama, he announced it because now it was time for that. Not because Democrats were in, but because the timeline had been moved up, because now they'd shifted into the new paradigm. We're going to go to Gordon, who's a police officer in Indiana, here in a moment. The toll-free number for police officers preparing for civil unrest, your take on Feinstein saying we're going to take the semi-autos, make you turn them in, the bill's introduced tomorrow, going in the Illinois legislature today. I mean, it's on. The Illinois State House, it's on. I've got the bill number up at Infowars.com. We've got all the articles about it. It's on. And so even if my family is in danger, it doesn't matter. There's no future for them if we don't beat this. The only hope is taking action. It's the only hope we've got. And I'm always about attacking on multiple fronts because we never know what's going to work the best. That's why I say, I'll go straight, you go left, right, somebody go up, somebody go down. You know, we got to swim out through this doorway in this flooded ship. We got to go out there. We got to don't panic, hold your breath. You can go 4 or 5 minutes, but you've got to control yourselves and not have fear, because it's the same thing. I've been able to before to swim. It's always my mind that makes me stop. I don't know, 2.5 Olympic lengths. Back when I was about 25 years old. Now I can only do about 1.5 lengths underwater. And you just got to like almost mesmerize yourself and just relax. They got skin divers that can go down for, 10 minutes, but they've trained themselves and trained their lungs and their blood system. So, I mean, I'm nothing. I'm just saying most people can't swim in a small, private pool 50 yards underwater, 30 yards underwater. And I liken it to the same thing. Politically, you've got to get over the fear and realize the greater fear is letting these people win. 800-259-9231 for police to call in. It's now out in the open. Illinois says they're going to take all the semi-autos and then maybe everything else later under the FOID card. We told you that was coming. Get you registered, then take it. Dianne Feinstein saying we want to take Mr. and Mrs. America's guns. It's just amazing that all of this has happened. And then coming up, I'll get into the fiscal cliff. They just use that as a way to jack up taxes. They use that as, of course they didn't cut spending. Of course it's all expanding. Of course they raise it on 77% of people in America. And Obama promised he wouldn't. They're gangsters. They want your money. Let's go ahead and go to Gordon, who's a police officer in Indiana. What's your take on all this?
Well, I want to say, Alex, I've been listening to your show for quite a while. Like the Bible says, you shall know them by their works. I'm a police officer in Indiana here, and I'm also black. And I am totally against this Obama thing about wanting to take the guns. I've spoken to several officers and also to several citizens, black citizens, I should say. They all say they're not going to give up their guns either. And it's clear that they want a total takeover of the United States, and they know they can only do it by disarming us. And I, for one, am not going to go door to door trying to take the citizens' guns away, because it's clearly against the Constitution.
What do you think about the state police who are specifically trained to do this? This is going to become a very unhealthy job.
Yes, I was a member of our SWAT team here years ago, and the newer members here are actually hooked up with the state police, and one officer in particular actually has one of those tracking devices embedded in his tooth. I thought it was a joke, and when I spoke to him, found out he really did have one put in his tooth. And
No, they make it real elitist. I had a cousin who's in special ops, and about 7 years ago, he goes, yeah, we were in a briefing with officers, 200 of us, and they said we're all going to get chips. The next time I saw him, he said, don't ask me about it anymore. They know I'm talking to you, and it's all classified. And he won't even talk to me now. I mean, he'll say hi and stuff, but he acts like I'm a rattlesnake. And they all got microchips. Yeah, the cops are getting them. Look, and they tell you like it's real elitist, like you're going to get a chip because you're elite. And they're MJTFing, multi-jurisdictional task forcing the police. They're taking the, quote, special units and making them special response to federal events. Yeah, I mean, it's a takeover. And so this guy got a microchip. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's he got a microchip embedded in his tooth. And supposedly it's, he was the only one on the team so far that done it here in the city. But other members of this, it's like a multi-jurisdictional SWAT team that they've come up with in the last, I think, 3 years.
Yeah, it's MJTF. That's how they dissolve. They give the funding to the MJTF and basically dissolve the counties and cities in the end.
Exactly.
Well, listen, you ought to ask him and call back sometime how they talked him into it, because I'm sure it was the federal grant. Mexico's done this as well with their police. That's MSNBC. You guys type in Mexican police officials to get implanted chips in teeth or in skin. It's MSNBC, AP, Reuters. Amazing. And then call back in and tell us how they sold it to him. Anything else, sir?
I just want to let the American people know, let them know that Not every black person is for this gun confiscation thing that they're talking about. Like I said, every person I have talked to said they are not going to turn in their guns. And I'm talking black.
Hold on, I got to hear the end of this, and then Eli. Stay with us. The globalists took America over a long time ago financially. They used our power, our wealth to take over the planet. Now they want to take us individually down. You know, I have a video and audio up at Infowars.com. North Carolina police lieutenant warns of plans to set up martial law in 2013. That's coming up in the next segment. And it's our own Pastor Butch Paugh of GCNlive.com. So we're going to add that to the alt market article that I didn't find. You'd think they'd want to put in the piece they did that it's a syndicated radio host. And Butch has broken so many big stories. He broke the clergy response team, and then we really broke it big with the pastors. And the pastors even got FEMA visits. And then later the media, the government declassified their training pastors to tell people to submit to tyranny. But I want to get Butch on today or tomorrow to pop in. He hadn't been on a while. He's on 8 o'clock Central on GCNlive.com and syndicated around the country. He's a pastor. He'll call himself a West Virginia hillbilly, but I call him a red-blooded great guy. And he interviewed this guy, and it's chilling, it's real. And what the guy says is actually in the news in pieces. See, it isn't just police calling in with this and then, oh, well, they said they were a cop. I already know all this. It's just good for you to hear it. Now, they're telling these police they're going to drop the hammer in the next month. Well, they said that back during the election. It's a psychological tactic where they keep saying there's going to be martial law, where even if you're against martial law, it's kind of like when I was growing up. I say I've been in 200 fights. 100 plus of them were, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, where I got beat up by bullies, a couple times a week. That's how I got tough. So a lot of them weren't like really hardcore serious fights, but, teeth loose, black eyes, stuff like that. And I just remember by the time I was in about 7th grade and been in about, 50, 60 fights, some big bully who'd flunked 3 grades said, I'm going to be meeting you outside after school. I wouldn't try to walk around and in the woods and get home or pick up a bus down the street. I'd go right out, run right up, and punch him right in the nose. And see, it's the same tactic. Martial law, martial law, martial law. They're going to attack Iran. They're going to attack Iraq. They're going to attack Syria. You kind of just get to where you're like, well, come on and get it done then. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I want to go to Eli in Missouri, who's a police officer, but finishing up Gordon in Indiana. Anything else you wanted to add about the police and private citizens you talked to? A lot of Obama supporters said, oh, Alex, I'm going to vote for Obama. He won't come after my guns. And I said, look, it's not that Obama's any, bad or good compared to Romney. It's that he's who they want. And I said Romney was for banning guns, too. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, actually, I didn't vote for Obama. I wanted Ron Paul. And a lot of the
Me too.
officers we have on the department who are, part military, and then, they go between the military and the police department, they wanted Ron Paul. But
is this a big wake-up call for people now that it's just openly we're going to take the guns?
A lot of them actually don't know until I speak with them myself. They're not, they see.
That's another thing. This is hardly getting the news. It's getting 1/10 the news it deserves. It's hardly even conservatives don't even know.
Exactly. I found it interesting that our illustrious mayor just recently called up for the state police help from the governor to get the state police and the National Guard to come here in the city to help patrol the city. And I found it odd because I said, we're not really that bad.
Oh, yeah, all over the country. They're saying, oh, the Army's here to help. Where are you, in Indianapolis? Where are you in Indiana?
Gary.
And now they want troops in Gary. Unbelievable. God bless you, sir. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And now after the Obama thing announcement, after that tragedy in Sandy Hook, after the Obama announcement about the gun, then it became clear, because like I said, the city isn't that bad off. I mean, it's bad, but it's not that bad.
No, listen, there are articles all over the news going, oh, it's great to have the National Guard on the streets. They're helping sweep for guns and cars. Oh, it's great to have the troops on the streets. They're just slowly getting us ready, rolling it out. God bless you. I appreciate your call. Stay in touch. Let's go to Eli. We'll have to hold him over. police officer in Missouri. What is your take on all this?
Well, I have a couple ideas about how it's going to be implemented. But first I wanted to tell you something that I haven't heard covered very much, other than you've touched on the fact that there's ATF rules, or not laws, but just rules that are asking gun shops to do certain things for them. And one of them that I've personally experienced is that they instruct the gun shops to send an email to police departments every time a purchase is made where there are multiple guns purchased. So almost daily, especially lately, I receive an email every time someone within the jurisdiction where I work purchases.
And then that's going into your Threat Fusion Center for the NSA, but they use you as the cover. Stay there. I want to. In fact, I knew this was going on. Stay right there. I'm going to come right back to you, Eli. The answer to 1984 is 1776. Pastor Butch Paugh, Genesis syndicated talk show host, pastor, will be joining us here in about 10 minutes. We're able to get him lined up on the ISDN line. We're connecting right now. And again, I saw this story at Infowars.com from Alt Market. North Carolina police lieutenant warns of plans for martial law. I was like, well, I wonder what show that was. And I went and looked, and it's Pastor Butch. And you'd think we need to, so we've added it to the report at Infowars.com. Kurt Nemo's adding it right now. It's important to add so people know where a report came from. I see that more and more where the internet grabs stuff and then doesn't vet it. Well, I can vet Pastor Butch Paugh. And what he's saying is it's all actually in the news. They're training for martial law and gun confiscation, and now they're saying it. And you're like, well, that's crazy. That'll cause a revolution. That's what Homeland Security and all the spying and all the SWAT teams are for. The globalists are going to bring us into total depression. They can't have you armed. They want you to be at the mercy of the rioting hordes and everything. This is a giant re-education takeover of America. Now, a gun shop here in Austin over a year and a half ago gave me ATF letters. And they're so intimidated by ATF, they said, don't tell anybody this, that it came from us. Because the ATF swaggers in, threatens people. It's like a movie. When the mafia comes in the store, I mean, they tell you, listen, Mac, you do what we say or you're going to be... And that in 4 states, but now it's nationwide. It was a test. Outside of law, it's a rule. It's total criminality. The same folks that did Fast and Furious, they're criminals. On average, some of the good ATF people are the ones that first blew the whistle. They go into shops everywhere now, and they say, you're going to send an email to the Threat Fusion Center. So I would guess our caller from Missouri is a detective, because those computer files are assigned to the local regional MJTF Threat Fusion Center that are really illegal CIA NSA bases. And by the way, that's now admitted that they're CIA NSA. And so they just use you as their cannon fodder and can tell people, oh, the local terrorism number is the local police. But then that's all filed into their larger system. And see, that way, when the globalists are planning a terror attack or something, they also know if local police have gotten onto it. See, because all the online police, if you're tracking real terrorism and you're filing it with the feds, that's how you end up getting shot by a, quote, crack dealer when you're going out to your car. See, if they're already going to run a terror operation, a false flag, and you were already on it, you're dead. I mean, that's why you always see cops die around a terror attack a few days before, because they'll kill whoever knows about it. Dozens got killed before 9/11. FBI agents, the FBI deputy director, head of counterterrorism, O'Neill. I mean, they will kill you before they do it. So they're also watching to see what the citizens notice. That's one of the biggest NSA functions. I revealed this about 5 years ago with my NSA sources. Well, one of them, of course, is former NSA, and with his sources, Wayne Madsen, who had to leave the country for a while because of death threats. He was at the NSA. That the main NSA thing is not just stealing patents and watching people and spying on political opposition. It's like Nixon to the power of infinity. But that what they're really doing is they're watching the local police departments. Because local police departments will find out about drug shipments. If they're not corrupt, they've got to be called off that case. If it's a federal shipment of drugs, most of it is federal, right to the big banks that run the country and launder the money publicly. Our military grows the opium on video publicly, so they couldn't hide it, so they said, okay, we grow the opium. Move along. They ship the drugs in, move along. They launder the drug money, move along. They own the private prisons owned by the big banks that run the drugs. The drug dealers own the prisons. See, the real business isn't just the drugs. It's slaves in the prisons working for 25 cents an hour. But I'm ranting. And, of course, a lot of them deserve to be in prison. They're unsavory, horrible people. The point is they're unsavory and horrible, a lot of them, because since they were 12 years old, they were forced into that culture. But side issue. The point is that, see, that's the problem with my broadcast. He brings something up and says, well, you're the only person I've heard touch on this. And we wrote articles about it. But, yes, then I give you the rest of the story, and I can go on for 3 hours just on this alone. Okay? And it's all totally illegal. So I'm going to shut up for 2 minutes because I know you're a busy man, and we got Pastor Butch coming on here in a moment. We're going to air that police lieutenant clip first. But start at the beginning with now gun owners all over the country are having basically a criminal file opened on them that'll be used for the later confiscation later, or to see if they, sold the gun to their brother or gave it to their grandson. Because in the future, it's going to be a felony if you give your grandson retroactively a firearm. That's all been announced. Go ahead.
Well, you're exactly right. It comes in an email form, at least when I receive it. And sometimes it's so ridiculous because you'll see, we don't live in a hugely populated area. It'll be someone you know, and you laugh because, they're buying more guns. But it has a person's address. It has any prior contact they've had with police. And we receive that, and some of us have objected to it. And the only reason I even read them is just out of curiosity and out of just so I'll be informed.
But it's a surveillance file being opened on someone who is not under the suspicion of a crime. It is pre-crime. It is North Korea. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on, the huge purchase by Homeland Security and other federal agencies of ammunition had a lot to do with the fact that they knew this was coming. Because when you brought it up before, they said, well, here in a little while, no one's going to be able to purchase ammo. And that does include police agencies. They can't buy ammo just like people can't right now because there's such a shortage.
And you know why there's a shortage? It's not really the ammo buying. The military doesn't sell the brass anymore. And because of all the federal purchases, the police can't get it either. This is the feds buying it all up because my intel is it's way more than 1.6 billion rounds. Go ahead.
Well, and it's true, and it's kind of sad because at the low levels, the local police departments that may actually, need that for range training and other things,
sure,
they have very few rounds on hand. It's a joke how little your local police department has. They have what's on their officers' duty belts and a few boxes per officer in a locker somewhere, and that's it.
No, whenever I'm at gun shops, I see police there off duty who come over and tell me they're police, and a lot of them show me their badge and say, I'm here having to buy ammo to go to the shooting range myself because they won't even give them the ammo now.
It's true. I mean, most agencies won't give you any to practice with. They won't. Some agencies, you even have to buy your own duty ammo. But I want to talk about, if we have any time, about how I envision the actual confiscation to take place. They're smart enough to know that there's a system in place that will allow this to happen without some sort of grandstanding and going door to door. Just like in any other criminal case, if there's probable cause that you have done something, they'll just issue a warrant for you. So, say you get stopped and you have a rifle that supposedly needs to be grandfathered under the new bill, and it's checked for whatever reason by a police officer, they will use that as probable cause to search your house. So you'll get arrested on a warrant. You'll go to jail at a place where no one sees it. It looks like you're any other common criminal that has warrants for whatever reason. There's no one to feel sorry for you and no one to take your side. So you just disappeared, and they go to your house and you're at home and take your guns.
No, that's, I don't know if you've been listening, but no, that's exactly how they plan to do it. And what they're training the military for is they're going to set up gang checkpoints, not sobriety checkpoints. It's already started all over the country in federal test grounds. It's federal grants quietly for illegal gang checkpoints. And they set up, they'll even have a truck with a heavy gun in the back. I actually have the news here, gang checkpoints popping up in Texas. And that is out of WOAI TV and radio out of San Antonio. And what they do is they just get the police used to it, where they run a gang background. They take photos of tattoos. They get you out. They search your car. Totally unconstitutional. It's training you for it. And then in the future, it's just like the FOID cards in Illinois. Your thing's out a week. They pull you over. They go, hey, your FOID's out. You still got guns? Yeah, boom, you're going to jail. And exactly, they're just going to pick us up that way. You're going to be pulled over. You're going to drive into a checkpoint. And they'll go, we have a record here that in 1989, because they digitized all those records. That's going on now. You bought a semi-automatic Remington such and such. Huh? Yeah? Oh, you admit to it. Bam, felony, you're gone. And they're getting money in the new federal law for expanded federal courts for gun owners, more prisons. Oh, yeah, they're going to, look, the Homeland Security, the FEMA camps is for gun owners. Do you concur with that analysis?
I agree completely, and I also believe that there will be a buyback program that is put in place that's extremely lucrative money-wise. They're probably going to pay more money than you could get in the market value for guns, and they're probably going to be scaled per how effective they are for self-defense. So a so-called assault rifle, you may be able to get $2,000. And so as things get worse and people are hungry, they'll get a lot of guns that way, because people will think, my bills are due, I can go get $2,000 right now for this gun, and people will do it.
I agree. Let me just stop you. That's always been the plan. And I got to go to Pastor Butch in the clip from his radio show a few nights ago. But before we do that, just briefly, are the other officers around you starting to get what's happening?
Yes, I work in a good department, above average in that regard. We just elected a new sheriff in our county who is better than average and not perfect. But I'm fortunate that I live and work in a place that is better than most.
But you know everybody should be freaking out right now, because it's not just going to be take the guns. This signifies total hammer drop. The end of America, folks. They plan a massive re-education takeover. God bless you. Now, we're going to keep Pastor Butch about 10 minutes in the next hour and then get Bob Fletcher on. This is breaking, but I've got Fletcher coming on because he was an Iran-Contra whistleblower and congressional fraud investigator, and he has seen the inside of the CIA, assassinations, black ops, you name it, and he's been warning about this for 20 years. But I want to play a clip from Pastor Butch's show. The full audio's up at Infowars.com. Because people are asking, is this report accurate? And I went, well, yeah, but we need to tell people who it is. It's Pastor Butch. So that's now been added at Infowars.com with one of his sources, a Lieutenant McCoy. And it was Butch that broke the clergy response team. I don't know, 6-7 years ago. People couldn't believe it at the time. It was later declassified. Preachers are being paid to spy on you and to teach to turn your guns in when they're given the order. Now it's over 100,000 preachers. So we're going to get Butch and his info briefly here. We'll probably have him back on tomorrow or so. But let's go to a clip from the Lieutenant McCoy out of North Carolina, totally freaked out because he says they're telling him it's about to happen in the next few weeks. Here it is.
What are you hearing from your superiors of what's coming down and what you're looking for?
Well, they're looking for it to happen, and they're training for it to happen.
Now, you said they're training to take us down, or training to defend us?
Yes, sir. Training to take us down. And
really?
Law enforcement here in North Carolina has started training with drones, military-operated drones.
Wow. Okay, they started training with military drones in North Carolina.
Yes, sir. That's correct, sir.
By the way, this is all confirmed already separately.
Your superiors are training the forces to take down the American people.
Yes, sir.
How are the forces responding to that?
Well, one of the main things that, and with the breaking news, that the ATF and the U.S. Marshal Service is recruiting from law enforcement agencies here in North Carolina.
They are, yes.
And what they're planning on doing is they'll get the local officers in with the ATF and U.S. Marshal Service. Now, the payroll will come from the state, but the equipment will be issued by the federal government, all except for the vehicle, and that'll be a totally unmarked cruiser that'll be issued to them.
Wow. Okay, and the timeline, what do you expect to happen?
The training is going to start within the next week with the officers that volunteer to do this. And mostly the ones that's volunteering are mostly the droid heads. That's what we call them anyhow.
Exactly. The ones who are gung-ho to anything they're told to do.
Yes, sir. And they're all pumped up. They're taking stuff to build their muscles artificially, and it's just unreal. I've been in law enforcement 31 years here, and I've never seen anything like it in my life.
What do you sense yourself?
I'm sorry, sir?
So what do you sense happening yourself? What do you sense, and what's your timeline you sense?
Well, I figure it's going to take them about 30 to 45 days to get everything in line. Now, we have our governor here in North Carolina is one of the governors picked by President Obama to take control under a martial law program.
Wow. And your personal opinion, Lieutenant, what are you going to do?
I'm going home.
You going home to protect your family?
Yes, sir. And that's what the Lord wants me to do, and that's what He says to do, and that's what I intend to do.
But do you expect some kind of movement then within the next 2 or 3 months?
Yes, sir, I do.
As far as?
I think they'll start to move, and they'll start picking out certain people and making confiscations and arrests.
Are they going to do that house to house along the road, roadblocks, or what?
It'll be wherever they can catch the certain individuals at.
Yeah, that's right.
They want to catch them at home where they can take their preparedness away from them.
And do you have any names been given to you yet?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you think the higher-ups know who it's going to be yet?
I think they do, yes, sir.
Interesting. Well, Lieutenant, if this is the last time you get to speak to the public, what would you tell them?
Trust the Lord and be prepared to defend yourself and your family.
Would you tell them it's time to buy an AR-15 for home defense?
I would say it is, and if you can find one.
Yes, exactly.
All right, that's enough.
Yes.
Full audio is up at Infowars.com. And then we'll also give you Pastor Butch's site. I'm going to skip this network break. Here's the thing, folks. They plan on this starting a fight. Okay, I want to explain to the police and military something. I am not going to turn my legally bought guns in just because a globalist criminal, Mafia Don, says I have to. But I also want it clear. Because I'm an information person, I am here to be sacrificed. I am not, because if they come to my house and kill me, I didn't resist. I'm just not turning them in. I'm going to go right to court, be a national court case, whatever. The problem is they'll probably just kill me. And they're going to spend special units in to just kill gun owners. And they're going to call us terrorists. And then the foolish roid head, you heard him call them droid head, they're robots, that get killed will be used as martyrs on the news. And this is how America falls. And Obama will be called the new Lincoln. They've mainly got Southern governors on the special 10-governor council to sell everybody out, to say, oh, look, there's governors on the federal council, as if that trumps the other 40 governors. And they're going to take everything. They're going to take your bank accounts, your pension funds, everything. They've got forced compulsory national service and communist brigades already set up. Rahm Emanuel will set that up. I can play him saying it if you want me to. This is how tyranny happens. And they don't even care if you did all turn your guns in, they'd still come to your house and kill you and drop guns there. They've got special units that literally hate the American people and want this war. Now, a lot of the police are good people, especially Christians, like you just heard that man. And you heard him. He's going to go home and defend his family. You know what that means. Once we see him killing people in the streets and everything, people aren't going to wait in their houses. And all police that aren't part of this are going to have to basically stand down and get out of that uniform real fast. Because, see, you're in Sauron's uniform now. You're in the Foreign Banks uniform. You're in a Vichy French collaborator uniform. And I just can't. My guts, I've told you this for months, that I just know it's all coming. I mean, I know. I don't need to even look at all this. I know. My discernment is just I mean, I've got myself in order with God. I'll tell you that right now. I've made my peace with God. Let's go to Pastor Butch Paugh. Pastor, I tell you, this is so disgusting, and it tears my guts out that we're going to watch the total fall of America right now. But I guess in a way we deserve it, the 53 million abortions and everything else. How bad is it going to get, Pastor, from all your other sources and Lieutenant McCoy?
Well, Alex, thanks, Samuel, and I appreciate it. And the clip you just played, he almost got to the point where I asked him how they're going to bring it down. He said probably through an economic collapse. And we're watching the news talking about the fiscal cliff and all the things, and what the Senate and Congress has avoided. And it's all a show. We know it's a show. And this gentleman, along with two other sources I have, two of them are local sheriffs out of Michigan, have confirmed everything he's told me. And I'm sure a lot more, that they're going to economically collapse the country probably first, or cause strain on that before they move in on people like maybe you and I. But tonight on my program, I'm going to have the Lieutenant McCoy on for a full hour to discuss this in much more detail.
Good, and I would like to invite you and he on my show tomorrow. Can we do that?
I'll have to ask him. I don't know that. I swore secrecy to him and who he is, where he's from, except for the state of North Carolina. But I want.
No, I know. But every time you've had these sources and confirmed them, it always later comes out as accurate. But sure, and we'll obviously play some excerpts tomorrow from you tonight, 8 o'clock Central. But yeah, talk to him, see if he wants to come on.
I will do that, Alex. And you know, you and I have, this coming March will make me 20 years on the radio, and you've been on a long time too.
17,
and we're not prophets. I want people to understand this. We're not prophets. I'm a Bible believing, I guess you can call me a Bible thumper. I believe the Word of God's the Word of God. Period. No compromises. No exceptions. But we're not prophets. I just take the scriptures, I take history and current events, and I can tell you where we are in time. And what we've been saying now for years, is coming to pass. We're not prophets, but we're not fools either. We can see what's coming. We're trying to warn the people. They're starting to listen a little more than they used to before. Even people around here that for years thought I was crazy are starting to realize, hey, he's telling the truth all along. And it just breaks my heart we can't reach everyone. But they're wanting to fight now, Alex. That's what they're wanting. They're pushing for a fight, and they're going to get one. And I know. Well,
that's the thing. I hope all these roid heads understand you're going to get a fight.
Yes, you are.
And the globalists don't care. The plan is to wipe all you idiots out. But I tell you, these roid heads are just too stupid, man. I'm telling you. I mean,
they are. I've seen one wearing a shirt today in a little town here in Summersville, next to where I live in West Virginia, wearing a shirt that something about don't F with the cops. We're more of a man than you are, something like that. And I just looked down at this cringe. You know, a few years ago, he would have been fired for wearing a shirt like that. It wouldn't have been a question. But now there's no they want goons.
They don't want strong, smart, good men. They want a bunch of crazy goons.
They will follow orders unquestionably. But Lieutenant McCoy, I spoke with him on the phone a little more in length yesterday before we scheduled for the program tonight. And he's very concerned, more so than he mentioned on my radio show. Tonight we'll probably get more detail, but he's very concerned. He knows it's imminent. According to him and other sources, 2 to 3 months is a good shot of being a possibility this all come together. Now, maybe they're off a few months. I don't know. We're not going to put dates on this.
Well, if we get the word out, they'll pull back. But yes, right now they're going to DEFCON 1.
So this is imminent. We're not talking, folks, about something 20 years from now or 5 years from now. This is imminent. Whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or a year, this is coming right now.
Well, look at the timeline. They're getting ready to pass a physical gun turn-in, and they're going to say, turn them in, and they're going to start SWAT teaming and killing people that don't as a way to try to terrify us, and that's not going to happen. People are going to go out and engage them, and then it's going to be, oh, the gun owners are terrorists, which the manuals already say, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, you know, Eric Holder back in '95 said that we have to change the minds, brainwash people to believe, to think different about guns.
That's a quote,
yes. And he did convince me of something. I never bought a gun in my life considered a weapon. I own guns. I own several guns. I always buy them for fun, target practice, or hunting. I've never bought a gun for a weapon per se, but I've never bought a baseball bat for a weapon either. Either can be used for a weapon. But I have considered guns as weapons now. I didn't do it. Eric Holder, you worked on me. You convinced me my guns are going to be weapons. I didn't buy them for that reason. No more than about a baseball bat for that reason. But you attacked me. I'll defend myself, my family, by any means necessary with all the force I have. Now, I'm a pastor. I'm a Christian. I don't want to do this. I'm begging you, folks, leave us alone. We're begging you, don't tread on us. We're not willing to fight. But we will, by God, stand and fight.
Yeah, they really want to start a civil war, and I'm telling you, the veterans out there are just going to wipe out the police. I mean, they're going to be wiped out, and that is the plan. That is the plan to then bring in foreign troops. I mean, the police will be wiped out. I mean, I hope they understand that. I just cannot believe we've gotten to this point. And at first, they're going to go out and blow up houses and go after, quote, cult members and demonize us. It's not going to work. And then people are going to go on the offense defensively, Pastor. And I just cannot believe it. And don't worry, the White House will stage some more shootings. I can tell you that, so they can go out and fake cry and say, well, they told us, gun owners, you killed the kids. You're terrorists. We'll be right back. Stay there. All right, we're going to get Pastor Butch and Lieutenant McCoy on either tomorrow or Friday. We're lining that up right now. And 8 o'clock tonight, Central, GCNlive.com, 9 o'clock Eastern. Local AM and FMs are in some areas of the country, shortwave as well. What's the best website for people, Pastor Butch? Call to decision?
Well, then go to PastorButch.com to look the stations we're listed on. And we are all the country, all the country on different stations. They can also listen on shortwave. The frequencies are on there, also on PastorButch.com. If they won't listen on net, the best site to go to probably is GCNlive.com. And click on the 9 o'clock Eastern and listen to the program tonight. This is probably going to be the most listened to show I've had in a long time, and definitely the most important one I've had as pertaining to this police state situation and what's coming down.
Sure. Well, let's get him on again also for our full audience. We'll obviously play some clips tomorrow, but everybody should tune in. I don't want to crash the Genesis servers. But the point is that, I mean, I don't know if you have a chance to hear my show. I used to be able to listen to yours a lot more, but I miss it quite a bit. But, I mean, did you hear me 2-3 months ago say I've never felt like this in my spirit, and now we see it all unfolding?
Yes, I have. And I said the same thing about the same time ago, 5 or 6 months ago. There's something coming. My gut says it. Of course, we know it's your spirit, but in your gut, it's like a dread. It's like you're expecting to be mortared or rocketed like it was with Nam. You're expecting it. It's going to happen. You're just waiting. You almost wish you get over it.
Yeah, was your spirit ever wrong? Was your gut ever wrong when you were in covert operations in Cambodia?
Not very often, no. No, not very often. I've learned to trust my spirit on that, especially since I'm a Christian and the Holy Spirit does tell me things. Not very often, no.
Well, it just meant the guy aiming a gun at you quit aiming it at you when the bad thing didn't happen.
Exactly, and that's what you made a statement a minute ago that was really important. If we get this news out, we may delay this for a few months. But Alex, it's going to come. You remember, of course, William Cooper. William Cooper wrote a book entitled "Behold a Pale Horse," and in that book he said, and he gave the name of the CIA operation that was going to do this, that would cause shooting and mass killings in schools. That's in his book in 1991. It's on my website, PastorButch.com. Read it for yourself. It's on there. This was predicted 13 years ago, 12 years ago. No longer than that. My goodness, that's been 21 years. Yeah, 21 years ago. So this is absolutely phenomenal. Now, again, he wasn't a prophet, but he knew what was coming down. Of course, he was killed for it, but he spoke the truth, put it in his book, and now we're seeing it happen. And most people don't even know what was in the book because most of them never read it. If they did, they forgot about it. But they can read it. They can see the actual page on my website.
Well, I mean, I've got other police calling in with the same info, and a lot of it's in the news. It's in the Army manuals. They're training for gun confiscation. It's in the news. They're deputizing local police as ATF. It's in the news. They bought 1.6 billion bullets and are deploying heavy armored vehicles to every town and city. They're gearing up for total war against us in an orchestrated collapse. When we're going to need guns during that collapse, they want us totally dependent. And I just... You can look at, I know they're going to stage some more school shootings, Pastor.
Well, I had 2 other sheriffs in Michigan confirm what this gentleman said, plus a state senator confirm the same thing. This is the plan. They've all been told the same scenario is coming down. None of them are for it. They're like the lieutenant. They will leave and do what they have to defend themselves. But they know it's coming down. They're on the inside trying to warn us. And I thank God for these men and women who have the courage to speak out in a time like this. This not only can mean their job, this can mean their lives. This could be, if they, this is...
But there's no future for them anyways.
There isn't.
You've got to put it all on the line now. That's what I'm doing. That's what you're doing. And make no mistake, he said they're going to take out the resistance leaders first.
Yes.
In every case, they're coming right for us, buddy.
Well, you and I both know that we've known this for years. It will be the first taken out. That's fine with me. If I got to go, the first wave is fine. I don't mind going out. Then it's in somebody else's hands. But we have been sacrificing ourselves, so to speak, on the air now for a long time, warning the people that we've been scoffed at, laughed at, and mocked and ridiculed, but we're still here, and we're going to stand to the end.
All right, I'll be listening tonight, and get him on tomorrow or Friday. God bless you, and we're going to be staying in contact with you with my producers to nail this down and make sure this happens. So twist his arm. I want to get him on this show, okay?
I'll do my best.
All right, thank you. We got Bob Fletcher coming up to give us his take on this and a lot more. And we're going to open the phones up for police that want to specifically talk about this giant ATF gear-up. Homeland Security is the foreign banking mercenary army of the 6 megabanks that run the narcotics, the white slavery, world prostitution, the drug companies, you name it. They are publicly involved in insider trading with Congress. They are publicly involved in $1 trillion+ a year in narcotics trafficking, $500 billion of that in the biggest market in the world, the United States. You can just look up $376 billion laundered by Wells Fargo and Wachovia. They didn't get in trouble. This is a mafia, and they want to take the pension funds, everything. The end of your standard of living, they've stated it, but they want to pose as saviors as they destroy you. So they're going to go for the guns. They're telling the Catholic and Baptist churches now, you will pay for morning after and abortion pills. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. They're announcing that they've got the votes. The Republicans are going to go along with totally open borders and legalizing 30 million illegal aliens and putting them all on welfare to bankrupt things further. They are announcing that they have changed the rules, the laws, to take the pension funds. It's all going to happen now. This is it. It's all going to happen. And you know, I've never got up on air and said that. Okay, I've said there's a danger of this, a danger of that. It's because we've been winning. The gun culture's been taking over. Abortion's now unpopular in polls. People are cutting back on abortions. They know we're winning, so they come out, put Obama back in, run a political corpse against him, and then say it's a mandate for tyranny. This is their attempt to act confident and do all this, and then try to cause a civil war so Obama can play the part of Lincoln. They know it's going to be a storm. They know it's going to be a giant shooting war. They're ready. They're dug in. That's why they've hardened all the police departments. Police out there, you're smart enough to see all the preparations that are bigger than Obama. This is a long-term program. Obama is just the front man for this, and now they're admitting it. Illinois introduced bills with their head leader there to openly ban the guns, to make you turn in all the newly manufactured firearms. That's up at Infowars.com, banning shooting ranges. Cops cite gangs as justification for unconstitutional checkpoints, where they're pulling people out of their cars and photographing us all over the country, but centered in Texas. Illinois moves to outlaw modern firearms and criminalize owners. Obama would call on military to disarm Americans during national emergency. And we just talked and played a police lieutenant with GCN host Pastor Butch Paugh, he makes them give them driver's license and stuff. Because a lot of times I end up getting guests on that he gets, because he gets these sources and he gets proof of who they are. He did that with the clergy response teams 7-8 years ago. I don't know. It was like 7 years ago. 2 years before he moved, so that's about 7 years ago. He got the guys' names. I got their names after, got them on the show. They were training preachers for during martial law to tell folks to submit. Now I can play newscasts saying that during martial law, preachers will help tell the public to turn their guns in. Just type in clergy response team into YouTube. You'll see the newscast. That was like 5 years after he broke it. And he has a police lieutenant freaked out enough to come on and even use his last name on air from North Carolina and say, in the next week, they start the training with the ATF to federalize the local police. We're going to have checkpoints and arrest everybody that doesn't turn their guns in. Now, part of that's a psyop to see what police say no so they can create their criminal brigades of guys that'll say yes. And it's part of scaring all of us. Look, I'm not turning my legal guns in. I've never committed a crime with them. I'm not going to live like places where they've taken all the guns. Everybody lives in fear and families get raped and killed, and they only use gun laws against law-abiding citizens in England. If somebody defends themselves with their fist, they throw the book at them. I know you're criminals. I know who you are. I'm a talk show host, and I'm not turning crud in. Okay, you got that? You got to draw your line in the sand like Colonel Travis, or everything's gone, okay? All you talkers that say, I can't wait to see a blue helmet. All you talkers, going to Bob Fletcher here in a moment. All you talkers say, oh, I'm in a cold, dead hand. It isn't going to be the UN coming. It's going to be your local cops, specially picked because they're steroid heads who, I mean, I've seen these guys. They should be bouncers or something, and even bad bouncers at that. They're bugging their eyes out when you walk by them. I'm tough, you're not. I mean, my whole instinct says, you think you are? You're a piece of trash criminal. You're a thug. You do good in North Korea. They're goons. 100 years ago, they'd be in the mafia as a low-level enforcer. They're people that get off on scaring people, and you don't scare me. You don't scare me. You understand that? And I'm putting the call out worldwide for people to get ready. All of us are Paul Revere's against your tyranny. And they're going to smash us up front if they pull this. They're going to kill a bunch of us. They're going to drag us around. They're going to say we're terrorists on the news. And then the Civil War starts. And I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen, okay? Believe me, I'm a successful syndicated radio talk show host who's been in big Hollywood movies and, you know, gotten to meet some of the most famous people in the world and have 3 great children and a wonderful wife, and I'm 38 and got my whole life ahead of me. But I know there's no future if we don't beat these people. I mean, can you get that through your head? And I've never turned tail and run. There's nowhere to run. You know, they say there's fight or flight. I fight. Okay? I fight. I'm going to fight. And I'm fighting with the info war right now. These are murdering criminals. The evidence is they staged Sandy Hook. I want to go to Bob Fletcher, and I appreciate him coming on today. We had a lot of breaking news. I wanted to get him on because he was a congressional whistleblower, an advisor, and, you know, on TV and things during the Iran-Contra affair. He owned a big, successful importation, export business with toys. And the CIA came without him knowing and said, hey, let's do business together. And it turned out it was all an operation with generals coming to his toy factory and using it as a front and narcotics trafficking and all the rest of it. And he refused to be part of it. And they tried to destroy him. They also tried to assassinate him. I mean, it's just amazing. And he's businessman, investigator, film producer, speaker, and author, Bob Fletcher, investigations.com. And, Bob, they've been planning this for a long time, but backed off because we were winning, because people were waking up. Brzezinski admits they're 7 to 12 years behind, depending on which actuary. Now they're saying because they're in so much trouble, they're going to try to accelerate the whole program, and they've decided that a civil war will be what brings them into full power. That's not what I'm saying. They're now saying he is Lincoln. There will be a civil war. He is our God. He will crush the states. I saw that 4 years ago with him saying he was Lincoln. I said, I think that's what's going to happen. And that is what's happened. Now, hopefully cooler minds will prevail and they won't try this. But, Bob, what is your take on everything that's unfolding right now?
Well, first off, some miscellaneous random notes that I made for myself for this morning's program just hit right on the head exactly what you've been saying. I mean, it looks like you've been looking at my notes. It's kind of like, well, I don't have to do anything because Alex has already covered it. I mean, verbatim, almost word for word. I'm making this assumption. You realize that I myself was one of the primary people in creating what was the militia.
Yes, you are the guy.
Patriot movement, and certainly not taking all the credit because there was a lot of people involved.
But people need to know that you know what you're talking about.
Well, what happened was very early. I was, doing speaking engagements and what have you after my crazy situation that you just mentioned, being sucked into the middle of major governmental corruption, with illegal arms and drugs connected to it and all the rest of that stuff, which was turned out to be the Iran-Contra mess. But not just that. They were all over the world with the same people that I was dealing with, so what happened was it procreated itself. I ended up being drawn back in over and over and over again every time every like in 2-year cycles when they had another crazy corrupted thing up there. It was something that crossed my path. So I got dragged back up into being involved with different senators and congressmen. A couple of them were good, and most of them were crooked, lying guys. But the situation, what had taken place when we surged with the word militia is what scared the pudding out of everybody, obviously. That was something the United States never had. They never had what appeared to be, the word just constitutes kind of a military connotation. So, no, it had never been used. If we called ourselves United Patriots of America, we wouldn't have drawn very much attention. But when we started calling it a militia movement, a patriot militia movement, they went crazy in Washington. We really scared them to death there for a while, and that was that the 10 or 12 years behind in terms of the New World Order's concept and their ideas of taking our guns and moving into a full one world government. That 10 to 12 year slowdown, a lot of that had to do with that militia patriot movement, because they really had to back off
because they were openly saying, Feinstein was saying, we're going to take all your guns, world government is here, we're going to make you take shots, and all these veterans said, we're going to fight back, and they went, oh, we're not going to make you take shots or take your guns, you're paranoid. So they went for a while with denying it. Now they're just trying to force it all through right now.
Right, but there's something else that has come up, I think, and I think, and it's not, you're not missing it, but a lot of people are kind of missing it, and I don't know if I mentioned it earlier on one of my other appearances with you. I'm trying to accomplish and finish up this last video I'm putting together, which is a presentation that I think sort of, and some of it even gets extremely way kind of out in left field. But unfortunately, I'm afraid that it all sort of fits together. But what's going on? There's something else out there that has caused the bad guys, the New World Order proponents and all, it has caused them to change a lot of directions, speed up some things, bypass some other things, and then put some of their old concepts on the shelf and move with some of the...
Okay, I want to break down what you think's changed in the Matrix when we get back with Bob Fletcher. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me be real concise about this. They're announcing total open borders. The Republicans suddenly say they're all going to vote for it. They don't care about you anymore because election fraud is almost total. They're announcing that they're just going to massively raise taxes on 77% of households. We have a clip of Obama swearing he'd never do that. It's all about betrayal. For every $41 in tax increases, there's $1 in cuts, and that's all fake. This is a program they've done in other countries. Now, Bob Fletcher, we were just talking, former congressional whistleblower, insider, Iran-Contra whistleblower, because he was right in the middle of it. And that's what they do. When they come recruit people, this comes out all the time, they just force businessmen into it. Or they come and say they're a company, suddenly you're in contracts with them, and they go, by the way, we're foreign banks, or we're the CIA, and we'll kill you if you don't do what we say. I mean, it's mafia. I mean, that's all it is mafia. But it's U.S. government, national security. And why do they want the guns now? You were saying that they're behind schedule. You were concurring that, yeah, they want to start some kind of crises. But why now are they just not caring what we think? I mean, what's the plan?
Well, of course, the big problem now is, that we, as in everybody except those of us who have been in the front of this thing for so long, we've permitted them to do it. We've let them get away with it. It goes back, unfortunately, on my grandfather's shoulders, and then on my father's shoulders, and then on my shoulders. And the bottom line is they have successfully gotten away to a situation where, anything that they want to do criminally, whatever it is, whether it's financial or something else, but maybe just political even, whatever they decide to do, they just do it, which includes killing people that may be going to come forward and talk. And I'm not going to get into that. But
DynCorp runs child kidnapping publicly, doesn't get in trouble when it's in the news. Open insider trading. I mean, they are absolute murdering criminals.
And the way they get away with it, if you could imagine Al Capone, if he had the ability to stamp top secret or covert operations or classified, if he had that big rubber stamp that those guys in Washington have, and could just stamp one of his bank robbery deals and just say, you can't interview those people because it's linked to a very important government project. I'm sorry. So, put away your lawyers and put away the judicial system.
Oh, when it came out on the Sandusky thing with the heads of the university involved, they all made them honorary NSA members so they can't get in trouble.
No, I mean, it's unbelievable, but so they have successfully gotten away with that. Then they, as you mentioned, and we all aware now, they've been stockpiling bullets. I mean, they're buying up bullets and putting in orders for bullets and weapons, that would just fill battleships. What in the world are miscellaneous bureaucratic, small-level bureaucratic operations doing, ordering up 10.5 million hollow point?
I talked to a police officer where one company of National Guard for Urban Warfare had 3 million rounds of bullets there on the small base.
Can you imagine? And so what are we doing about it? Of course, unfortunately, at this point in time, I never thought I was going to get to the point where I would say this. They got us. They got us by the butt. They got a hold of us. I mean, I have all the people that were involved originally with the 1990s Patriot movement. So many of them, a lot of them have actually been put in jail. There's some I think are still in jail. Random things that they brought in, set people up and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really reached a point of it's where it genuinely is going to hit the fan. Now, I don't know. I have a lot of people have a different opinion of this. Some folks feel that it's totally and strictly a financial collapse situation where they're totally preparing for it to the extent, like we know, that upsets me a little bit, is 500,000 coffins pre-manufactured sitting out there in outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know where they are now. They moved them, but the point is when the people who are the theoretical enforcers have gone and ordered 500,000 coffin boxes that, by the way, could probably handle 2 to 3 or 4 people in an emergency situation. That should scare the pudding out of the average American, but they seem to not. Nobody's out there. I haven't seen any signs asking.
By the way, we talked about a purge during the break because I agree with you. I was asking what you think this is all about. You were saying, well, so it's an excuse to selectively enforce on gun owners. They're going to make us the new enemy, and I concur with you, even though you weren't listening to the show. Sure. We're going to come back and talk about that, and then I'm going to. Well, we'll stay there. I got something that's important coming up. Okay, I'm going to open the phones up and probably go into overdrive for police officers that can confirm what the police officer that Pastor Butch Paugh has confirmed his identity in North Carolina said, federalizing police for ATF for gun confiscation training, door-to-door highway checkpoints. Now, I have the news saying they're training the Army for that, and they're saying they may confiscate our guns. It's official. Illinois saying they're going to ban almost all guns, like Chicago, make you turn them in. That bill's been introduced by the head of the legislature. That story's up at Infowars.com. But I want to just specifically for police officers who are being told the same thing, because you heard Butch, a lieutenant governor, and I can guess which state. I know which state he knows the governor and the lieutenant governor, but I'm not going to say, because this country's so cowardly now, folks, that even the heroes do it behind the scenes. And the police, he talked to 2 in Michigan, confirmed their identities, and then the guy in North Carolina, and then a lieutenant governor. Well, I already know. I mean, I've got articles, speak of the devil, out of the Carolinas, out of North Carolina. It's in my film Police State 2, The Takeover, from, when is it? 2000, where they had in the schools deputized local sheriffs under ATF in the law enforcement program, And it said they did anti-gun programs with the kids for a full semester and discuss their home life. That's part of the grant. Actually show the grant papers. So I can confirm all of this is going on. It's just good to hear police call in so the public can hear it. So 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. We're going back to Bob Fletcher here in just a moment. Hey, the new magazines are in, and I saw somebody on YouTube complaining, going, why is it $59 for 12 issues? And complaining that we're charging money. These are big, color, glossy, thick magazines now. We've expanded them now into the 5th issue, and that includes the 12 shipping. It's over $2 per magazine after shipping, handling, graphics, writers. I'll be honest with you, and I designed it this way. This thing is not making money, but it is getting the word out, okay? And it will soon. We get enough subscribers. But we have to make money to be able to get more info out. I did it so there's hard copies, big glossy color things you can give people full of graphics and editorial cartoons and everything to give people. 2013, the year America dies. Okay, you can buy them in bulk at cost. What, 10 of them for $14? 100, it's even less per copy. Okay, you can buy these at cost in bulk and give them to people at InfoWarsStore.com. But it's designed to wake people up, and boy is it, because we put a bunch of them out for free on the streets of Austin. So again, ladies and gentlemen, get it out to people now, because here's the problem. People don't know what's going on. The media is being very quiet. They're like, yeah, it's reasonable. You're going to turn your guns in with the bill. Or, yeah, we're going to ban all the guns in Illinois. Or, yeah, we did build some FEMA camps. The average mainline neocon show is not saying anything. When the Republicans passed the biggest, tax increases ever and taxes on 77% of people, and that's called conservative and total lies. And the point is they're moving. This is it. The political whoredom has been threatened, cajoled, fluffed, whatever the issue is, into going along with this. So they've been told, we're making the move. You want to have a seat at the table, sit down and shut up. So we have got to lunge to our feet because this is a 50-alarm fire. No neocon show is even making a big deal out of this. The only big media outlet not controlled by globalists that's covering it, other than Infowars.com and WorldNetDaily.com, is DrudgeReport.com. Okay, so a lot of people are like, I'll just shoot them when they come for them. They're going to pull you over at a checkpoint and arrest you and say, we know that you've got guns. Okay, this is a way to purge the gun owners. So 800-259-9231. We'll do a little bit of overdrive with Bob Fletcher, whistleblower, joining us. Bob, tell me what you said off air, because you weren't listening today, and you said your notes concur, so you won't repeat it because I already said it. Read what's on those notes about you believing this is a plan to carry out a purge. Of course it is. This is the cover for them to say we're terrorists. They're already saying gun owners killed the kids. Gun owners are Klan. Well, the left is saying, we hope you don't turn them in. We're going to hunt you down. We're going to form federal militias. This is their little Soviet takeover.
Once they do martial law, whatever pretext they utilize for that, they have expanded, and particularly even Obama in the last couple of years, they have expanded the martial law capabilities. They've upgraded them. They've not that it makes any difference, because once martial law is in, it's all over. I mean, it gives them carte blanche to do whatever they want and to utilize any means by necessary. They, of course, make reference, I know you've covered all this, they make reference to the American people as being, like it's a chattel product or something like that.
No, they call us, I think I have a clip in a UN video from the 70s. They call us human resources to be used, and in the U.S. code, we're called animals.
Yeah, well, it's been even the brand new upgraded thing that Obama did. I don't have the papers in front of me, but the upgrade on the recent upgrade that Obama did in the last few months actually uses that same term. So they haven't backed off or anything. They're still just using that terminology that you're strictly an item to be applied to whatever they have to. and they can force you to do whatever they want you to do, and that's very, very clear, very specific in the brand new executive orders related to martial law.
No, it says forced labor. It says forced work brigades. They can take your resources. Congress is suspended under these executive orders of Bush and Obama.
Oh, absolutely. That's a done deal. Yeah, all of that, anything that falls into quote-unquote representative government.
Congress passed a law saying they're allowed to insider trade, but the media said the law banned insider trading when there was already a law banning it. See how they work? I mean...
Yeah, the law's got nothing to do with what those guys are going to follow up there anyhow. But again, and I don't mean to be repetitious, but the thing that bothers me, for example, is this huge multinational mercenary operation, originally called Blackwater. Now it's gotten to be so gigantic with multi-billion-dollar unchallenged contracts with Uncle Sam.
XZ.
Yeah, they're without even being bidded. They're non-bid deals with most of them.
They're training the police everywhere.
Absolutely.
There's video of them on DEA raids now.
And when they get around to kicking the doors in, see, you'll have like two mercenaries from who knows, Afghanistan or Uganda out at your front door with one local police officer, so that those two guys don't get lost.
It's worse than that. Correction Corps of America is now running the public schools in many cities. And in many states, and they train the kids literally how to go into the private prison, which is the new slave labor. Correction Corps of America is now in the elementary schools in places like Arizona.
When they go in, I mean, once they do the martial law, and then they just tell everybody, all right, we want you all to just turn in. We're going to have dump trucks coming down the street. We want you to throw your guns in them. And by the way, if people think that sounds bizarre, we forget, even myself and maybe yourself, we forget that they did that in Australia already. They took all the guns.
They did it in England, and they killed Crocodile Dundee, the real guy.
Oh, it was a long time. This is a long time ago now.
They killed 2,000 Aussies. They murdered them.
Yep, and they went in, and they literally, we actually had it printed on a T-shirt that the militia groups had for distribution, and it was a T-shirt that showed a pile that was 100 feet high and 70 feet across with nothing but weapons that they had confiscated.
And their crime rate went up 86% within 2 years and has only climbed since. And now they're under carbon taxes, and they brought in foreign gangs to literally beat and rape the Aussies who were thrown in prison if they defend themselves. And now they're trying to ban butcher knives in England.
Okay. Well, they can register them, maybe just...
No, I'm not joking. No, you have to get a license. That's BBC.
So bizarre, right? The frightening thing, people think, when people hear us talking like this, I know there's a good percentage still out there that says, well, they couldn't keep this plan secret. How could they keep this secret and that secret and everything? But the American people have forgotten a thing called the Manhattan Project. All right, we, for 5 years in the United States, at the high point of national concerns that there had ever been there for a while, back in 1938-39, for 5 years, we worked secretly to create the atomic bomb. Nobody knew anything about it. I don't know how big of a secret you could get, because we had thousands of people working on that, all right? But they were still able to keep it under wraps until, boom, all of a sudden one day, Truman came on and said, we just killed 150,000 Japanese people in about 4.5 seconds with a new weapon. And nobody knew anything about it. And I'm afraid we're going to be caught.
And to interrupt you, we'll go into overdrive. We got Joe Banister calling in and a bunch of other police officers calling in. We're going to get to them right now. This is breaking news. They're not actually keeping this secret. It's in the executive orders. It's in the military training manuals. It's in pieces of news here and there. It's just not all being fanfared and announced. So when they drop the hammer, it's like they said they ordered the body scanners on Christmas Day with the underwear bomber. They ordered them a year before, but they lied. They just tell the public, oh, the Army's here to take your guns. We just trained to do this today. It's amazing. Bob Fletcher, Iran-Contra whistleblower, is our guest right now. He says he's Joe Banister. I'll recognize his voice If it is, then we'll go to Jeff, who's a New York police officer, and Joe, who's a California police officer, and Roman, who's a Marine. But again, I specifically want to know about people that know about the Lieutenant McCoy that's been confirmed by our own GCN host, Butch Paugh, that in North Carolina they are training for mass gun confiscation, door-to-door and checkpoints. The training starts next week with special deputized units under ATF of local police, which is the model in which I've already confirmed they're doing with ATF, but the training is non-specific. Let's talk to Joe Banister. Joe, is this Joe Banister?
Hey, Alex, it really is Joe.
Hey, that's you. Okay, so you're the Treasury agent assigned to the IRS that found out the IRS was a scam, asked them to respond, so they told you resign. Then they tried to put you in prison for your free speech. You beat them. Real fast, what's your take on this? Do you have any intel on the federalization covertly for gun confiscation?
Absolutely do. I have a reliable law enforcement source who told me he personally participated in training within the last year that was federally funded and sponsored, in which the officers, the California peace officers, were instructed to shoot to kill as opposed to shoot to stop. And, law enforcement will understand the difference. And so these federal agents and federal military were teaching them shoot to kill, and the officers were really taken aback by that because all of their previous training is about shoot to stop the threat, and that's different from shoot to kill. So that's what the feds are training the state and local officers, at least in California, and you know that it's nationwide. It's shoot to kill. So I would say that totally corroborates what your other guests are talking about.
And that specifically, we have the Army manual where they train to shoot to kill Americans who don't turn their guns in, and including blowing up the houses. What are they being told the shoot to kill training is for?
They're not told. In other words, they have this live fire training, where you go into...
Well, they even had that with the police and the military, quote, simulating killing zombies dressed up, in Dallas Cowboys jerseys. That's the cover. You saw that where they are having Army training to kill zombies, which is really just mow-down citizen training.
Right. So they're not actually putting, like, John Deere hats on the people, but they are changing their whole outlook in terms of when they're going to fire. It's shoot to kill, and that's such a difference. That's a military type scenario as opposed to a civil law enforcement scenario.
Incredible. Bob Fletcher's on with us right now. Seeing Feinstein say, Mr. and Mrs. America, get ready to turn your guns in. Seeing them introduce, gun ban, hand your guns in Illinois. They say it's set to pass. The military training to mow down whole crowds of people, but using the zombie cover. I just showed that mainstream news article. Seeing this whole buildup, what is your take from being on the inside of how serious things are? Joe.
Asking Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
Oh, well, I've got a lot of law enforcement from the past, and they're all freaking out because they can see this federal influence coming in like crazy into their departments. So it's going to be nasty, and what's going to be a shame is for these law enforcement officers whether to stay or leave, and the pressure is going to be on when you start doing illegal and immoral things, as I had to experience myself, and many people do. I get that those same chills that you get, Alex, thinking what's coming.
Oh, it's guaranteed. I mean, if 1% of gun owners fight back, that's 1.5 million. And, I mean, but again, that's the diabolical plan. Joe, I want to get you on the nightly news the next few nights to talk about what your sources are telling you. That is really important breaking news. Thank you. Let's jam in another call while Bob Fletcher Investigations is our guest. We'll give you his website again as well and let him finish up in some overdrive. Which police officer has been holding the longest? Let's go to Roman, who's California Marine, claims he has gun info. I know I videotaped Marines training for gun confiscations many years ago. Roman, and then we'll go to Jeff and Joe, and then back to our guest. Real quick, Roman, what's your intel?
Yeah, I actually called Mrs. Feinstein out on being a female Pol Pot, and I threatened to unseat her in Congress, and she took my post down on her Facebook.
All right, listen, I appreciate your call. Your phone's breaking up. I couldn't really understand what you're saying. Let's go to Jeff in New York, says he's a police officer. Jeff, real fast, what's your take on this? Do you have any information on gun confiscation training?
Yes. the county that I serve in, the sheriff's department, tried to get our small town police department to start training for door-to-door confiscations, and we refused. And I think that's the way it's going to go in a lot of the small towns, is the small, close-knit towns, the small police departments aren't going to go along with this.
Jeff, excuse me, so you're saying you guys were told to train, and to train with who for door-to-door gun confiscation?
Our local county sheriff's department. I live in New York. New York is still under an assault weapons ban and very draconian gun laws. And
oh, yeah, your governor has said they may ban all the guns statewide and make people turn them in. New York Times.
Yes.
And who are you supposed to train with? The sheriff's department?
The sheriff's department, which I'm sure somebody from the federal government has spoken with them and gotten them to go along. And
so the federal government's coming in saying, do gun confiscation drills. Stay there. I want to get Bob Fletcher's take on this with you. Then we'll talk to Tom in Maryland, who's police. We got Joe and a bunch of others. This is just really crazy what's happening. Really. It is more important than ever to support this broadcast. I've been so busy the last 3 weeks with this coming down that I haven't even been plugging things that fund our operation, like the Pro Pure water filters, discounted 10% with promo code WATER at InfoWarsStore.com. The books, the videos, all of it. If you believe in what we're doing and want to see it continue, be sure and support us at InfoWarsStore.com or call 888-253-3139. Bob Fletcher's going to tell a CIA story from the assistant of Casey, BobFletcherInvestigations.com, the next segment. Let's go to Jeff in New York. We'll go to each police officer real fast so we get to the next one. Jeff, your take on gun confiscation training.
It's hard to say, Alex. I mean, like I said, my department is about 20 officers, and we're just not going to have any part of it.
Do you have any info on all these other departments calling in saying they are getting the training now?
Well, like I said, our local sheriff's department, the county that I work in, they wanted my department to start training with their SWAT teams for entry. And the biggest thing that happens in our town that we deal with mostly is, maybe a bar fight or a DWI, but nothing violent, nothing criminal. And now all of a sudden they want us to start training on how to enter houses.
Yeah, well, at the larger departments, it's for gun confiscation. That is confirmed. The Army's admits they're training for it. They're going to have beta tests where they show it. Everyone's turning their guns in. They're happy. That's the PSYOP, but that's not going to be real. And they're going to try to demoralize us. It's going to be amazing. God bless you, Jeff. Let's talk to Joe in California. You're on the air, police. What's your take on this? Are you getting that training?
Alex.
Yes, sir.
Privilege. Yes, I just wanted to let you know that I've been speaking with you for listening to your program for over 2 years now, and nobody has ever called in to tell you what I'm going to tell you right now. There are secret sleeper cells all over the country that are ready and willing to take charge of the situation. And I'm not talking about kicking people's doors in, all right? The people that I hang out with are all ex-military. I spent 20 years in the Navy, and I know that I swore an oath to the Constitution. And the only thing that bothers me, sir, about you is that you were never in the military, so you never swore an oath to the Constitution. And I have my doubts about you being a DOD plant. And I want you right now, to your worldwide audience, to tell everybody that you are for real. Because you talk a lot, but you don't really offer any solutions. And I'm an action person without solutions.
Oh, I understand. You're God and John Wayne, and I'm nobody. I'm on air 17 years, just nothing but delivering the goods over and over again. But I'm nobody and have no track record. We don't know who you are. Had a prank caller earlier. Now you're calling in saying they're sleeper cells. Look, I appreciate your call. We hear this a lot about the white knights and the good guys, and it's all handled. Nobody's going to put action. I'm calling for states' rights. I'm calling to get good people elected to Congress, to get rid of election fraud. I'm saying I'm Alex Jones. I'm not turning my guns in. I'm calling for the Second American Revolution, and all over the news. And I know people can't believe I'm still alive. It's called God. Okay, that's why. And you might get what you want. I might get struck down. But you judge a tree by its fruits, and that's political cognitive infiltration that Cass Sunstein talked about, even if the guy's not a Fed. He probably wasn't. They cognitively infiltrate. They say go out in their groups, cause infighting, call everybody who isn't a Fed. Okay, I'm here talking about, hey, Dianne Feinstein says she's coming for our guns. I'm doing things to stop this. I'm putting out the arguments why this is wrong. I'm having a big effect. I'm trying to go to police officers with information. I said, are you training for gun confiscation? They're calling in and saying yes. Or yes, we're getting similar training. You call in. We're trying to get information here. You call in and say I'm full of malarkey. We're going to come back for 20 minutes, at least in overdrive with Bob Fletcher. I apologize, I've been going to calls, but we got to go through these. But that's how a PSYOP works, which you just heard and saw. All right, folks, it is the second day of January 2013. I am your host, Alex Jones. Bob Fletcher, on record, Iran-Contra whistleblower, advisor to Congress. He's got some CIA stories he's going to tell you in a minute about one of the top folks in the CIA and how he was able to pretty much start the militia movement to try to resist the globalists, and is one of the guys that helped hold it back about 10 years. We also got some other police officers like Tom and Marilyn we're going to get to. Now, I don't think that guy was a PSYOP, but he was repeating a PSYOP. See, a good PSYOP is put out, and then other people put it out. When you say, we have hope, we can restore things, but we've got to admit, blah, 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 that, you know, the New World Order, the Federal Reserve, that's not a PSYOP, that's a patriot. Now, sometimes PSYOPs come out, I've been doing this 17 years, well, really 20, but 17 on air, and they'll, for about a year, never more than a year, put out decent info and then start infighting and putting out crazy talk. So, and I said Hal Turner was a Fed. Came out he was. I mean, that was obvious. Saying kill judges and go after me and all this stuff, and I'm a Fed. And I'm like, that guy's a Fed. Anybody, there's people on air now that's, you know, call for attacking the Federal Reserve and stuff. Folks, if I said that, the police would be here in 1 hour. Okay? How did you deal, Bob, with provocateurs and people? And what's your take on that call you just heard? Where we're putting out, you know, the mother's milk info of liberty, Paul Revere, and the guy opens the window and says, you're a redcoat. And I'm like, why would I be telling you the redcoats are coming? Go ahead.
Yeah, we had a tremendous amount of situations like that. People that were always doing that and trying to say, I mean, they were always constantly saying, oh, that entire patriot movement, the entire militia movement, all those guys up at the very top. First off, the bad guy said that we were connected to the Nazis and every other crazy thing and racist and all that stuff. And that was complete garbage, with the exception of a couple of yahoos who are always out there in
Sure,
society.
I mean, you were going up against Reagan and Iran-Contra. You're not, but listen, the point is, exactly, it isn't about that. It's about they're coming for our guns. What are we going to do? And the guy says, you're a DOD plant because you didn't serve in the military. I mean, what does that even mean?
Yeah, and
you know, people have gone and went to Rockwall and went to Austin and got my yearbooks. They've gone and interviewed people I went to college with trying to prove I'm not who I say I am. People think I'm 50. I'm 38 years old. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we had an awful lot of that constantly. And the bottom line, in some cases, it simply is a disgruntled ex-serviceman, who, by the way, I am one. I'm not I'm disgruntled, but not on the wrong side of the fence or right side. The bottom line is we would get guys that felt that if, in fact, you weren't in the service, that you have no right to talk in terms of defending the Constitution, because you never raised your hand and swore to defend the Constitution. But what you have to point out, what I constantly pointed out to those guys when they would say that, I would say, hey, listen, the people that are the bad guys, the President of the United States that's taking us down the toilet raised his hand to protect the Constitution. What are you talking about? That has no bearing whether
Bob, I've sworn on the altar of God, eternal resistance to tyranny, as Thomas Jefferson did. I'm not swearing to the corrupt New World Order that hijacked my country. It's asinine. My deeds, and I'm not here to justify myself, but it's a total cop-out. I work sometimes 18 hours a day, and these people don't have a micron of discernment if they don't know I'm totally true blue. They do stuff like watch Police State 4 and see a thing where it says submit to tyranny, you know, with a New World Order badge. It's not subliminal. It's clearly on the screen. They go, that's a subliminal. Or he has a pyramid saying New World Order. That's subliminal. You can't see a subliminal with the naked eye. They use any excuse to cop out and say I'm bad. So let me just say it this way, and we're going to go to break, come back, get to more news and calls with Tom and others. Let's just say I'm horrible and bad. Now let's move on. What are you going to do to stop copping out? Okay, you need to engage the New World Order, folks. We need to expose them. We need to get the word out. They're coming for our guns, okay? All right? Alex Jones, I'm the worst person on earth, okay? I'm not, but just whatever fantasy you got, okay, it's true. All right, now can we move on now? Okay, you're a bigger man. You're a better man. I'm a bad man. You're a good man. Now ignore all that now. I'm bad. You're good. We got it. You're John Wayne. I'm crap. Now, let's move on against the globalists. They're the fight. They're coming down on us. Now's the time. 110%. There's a video we did back in July, a special report, troops ordered to kill Americans who do not turn in their guns. It's in the official manuals. It ties into all the gun confiscation training in the news that's going on and the announcements that most guns will be turned in under the Feinstein bill. States are moving in the same direction. And you're like, well, that'll cause a civil war? That's the plan. We got one more call from a police officer, a guy saying he's a police officer, Tom in Maryland, and we'll get his take on all this. And we had Pastor Butch on earlier with the Lieutenant McCoy with the gun confiscation training they're going under with the ATF in North Carolina. That audio and video is up at Infowars.com right now. But the troops ordered to kill Americans who do not turn in their guns. That video is posted in a new report with the latest info. Obama would call on military to disarm Americans during national emergency, and it's got all the proof. Army Manuals provides blueprint for confiscating guns of, quote, rioters and dissidents. And the re-education camp, FM 3-39.40, how to process you and your family into the re-education center. It actually uses that term. Bob Fletcher, congressional whistleblower, Iran-Contra, a businessman who was basically infiltrated, and they tried to use him for operations. He helped expose him. And then, of course, one of the modern founders of the militia to counter it is on with us. Finishing up with a caller right now. Tom in Maryland, police officer, you say. What is your take on this? Have you gotten any training along this line?
Well, I thought I had 2 points that I thought would be germane and that you and your audience would be interested in. We went through a very similar time back in the early 90s when they were talking about doing an assault weapons ban.
That's what Bob was saying. Just interrupt. Bob was saying that during a break that, Alex, we can stop this. They did this in the early 90s. I want him to respond after you're done. I'm sorry. Just go ahead.
Sure. Well, I suspect that probably as far as police officers are concerned, you'll end up with two groups like we did back in the early 90s. We had those who took their oath seriously and had a real problem with the thought that if a law were passed that would contradict our oath to uphold the Constitution, what would we do? Would we quit, like the lieutenant was talking about earlier? Would we try to stay on and work and do good from the inside? It was something that we really stressed about. Now, about half of the other officers didn't take their oath seriously, and they were beholden to the paycheck and said outright, many of them, well, we're just going to do what we need to do to keep a job. I need to put food on the table. It tells you right away, who has honor and who doesn't. So as far as we were concerned, and of course we didn't know exactly what possible legislation would be, it turned out that with the ban, we didn't feel that it was something that we had to take drastic action on, but we had decided prior to it passing that if it was something that absolutely contradicted the Constitution, we were going to start before it even was passed into law with a heavy-duty letter-writing campaign and also the filing of lawsuits. I think that's...
Amen. We got to file lawsuits. We got to do banner hangs. I keep meaning to shoot a video, and I'm going to do it today after the show for the Nightly News, where I get into solutions. But then there's so many Let me ask you, officer, and then Bob Fletcher, what do you think the number one solutions are? I think just get the word out. You know, the fact that the media isn't making a big deal out of this, they're making a big deal about the shooting, saying something's got to be done, but they're not telling people it's gun confiscation. I mean, that's the bill. And so I think, number one, just get the word out that this is going to be a physical ban.
We thought that would be one of the best ways, but we thought that the very best way would be to take action in the form of filing lawsuits and writing letters. And they really go hand in hand, getting the word out and getting other people to realize that it's a serious issue, that it's not just another law.
And we're talking about civil rights lawsuits. We're talking about, and again, even if you don't win them, it gets people's attention when you sue them.
Makes them respond when you file legal action. And anyone can do it, pro se. You don't have to hire a lawyer. It only takes your time and your willingness to do what you know is right. And like I said, about 50%, maybe a little bit more of the officers really believed that it was the right thing to do and that it was a priority.
What's happening now? I mean, people you talk to, officers you talk to now, are they concerned about all this gun confiscation move?
Well, the officers that I talk to now are very concerned about the new generation, if you will, of police officers. We see things being done that we never would have done, that we probably would have been fired for. I don't know how they're developing their general orders or their standard operating procedures, whatever they're calling them now, but there's a lot of actions being taken and defended that we're just appalled at. There was a Marine killed. You can see video of raids taking place. You know, when we did a dynamic entry, it was just that. It was a dynamic entry, and the goal was that no one got hurt and that the warrant was properly served. You look at a lot of what's going on these days, and it's as though they're going in for a shooting match.
No, they want to kill somebody because that's manly.
And that's not at all what it's about. And in defense of the good officers, because we believe there's still a good number of good officers out there, I can't imagine how they're reconciling the old school, if you will, with this new generation.
Well, let me tell you, God bless you, sir, and the great points you've made. I have been around feds and people at gun shows and stuff, and they'll come right over and go, yeah, Jones, what are you doing here? And they look like a guy out of a Hollywood movie who's a criminal. I mean, they're like obviously horrible scum. And you're like, what, you think you're intimidating me? I mean, they're gangsters. And it just gets my hackles up at so many levels that we are really a pathetic nation that we put up with this. And most police I see don't act like total thugs, but you see units of them, where they're like all on roids and shaved heads and wearing black gloves and gooning at you. And I'm the type of person, when somebody looks at me like a goon, I mean, I'm not looking for trouble, but that just gets me like, whoa, you're trying to dominate me? I mean, they're such shameful people that it makes me want to climb up on top of them and show them who, what a real man is, because it's fundamentally upsetting. Bob Fletcher, do you know what I'm talking about? I mean, the sickness of a goon. They're like little arrested kids, arrested.
Yeah, of course, those are the guys that are selected internally and brought forward and run through the system, I'll call them the bad guys, run through their system, put them forward and say, hey, this guy will fit in great for either doing undercover or doing psychological psych ops to scare the pudding out of some average citizen, so they're put over here. They get a separate file, they're moved and they say, hey, they call them up or bring them up and say, listen, Joe, we want to give you a raise, and we want to put you into our special ops over here, and it'll be exciting, and it'll be this, and it'll be that.
But don't the globalist cowards know that with the average man, somebody acting intimidating towards them doesn't intimidate you?
Well, again, the bottom line is if you can scare one guy, he's usually, whomever he is, he's going to drag down another handful along with him, some of his friends or family, and going to say, hey, we got to do this, we got to do that. When they do this martial law and they go to the first homes, the initial ones where they kick in the doors and they say, bring out your guns. And the first guy that says, I'm not going to let you, no, I'm not going to give you my gun, they're just going to shoot him in the doorway.
That's right.
And they're going to videotape it, and then they're going to show that on the news. And I got news, that's impressive to the 5 people that are watching in the neighborhood, and they're all going to have their guns out on the front porch by the next afternoon. And that's the kind of...
Yeah, but I predict 5 to 10% are going to go hunting. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, that's and that's literally part of it. Oh, and what I wanted to mention, we talked about a while back. I had a very close friend that had been involved with the CIA, going through several different presidential administrations. A very high-level person, highly respected. The very fact that, and by the way, it was a lady, and the fact that she was involved with several administrations in the intelligence community shows to what she was. And I asked her one time, because it was making me crazy. I was watching news in Los Angeles when I was living there for a while, and there was this huge a bomb scare situation, and it involved helicopters and the bomb squad and all kinds of stuff, and they were doing this live broadcast and everything. But then when I brought it up, I think on a television or a radio interview or something the next day or a couple of days later, nobody knew what I was talking about. And they said it wasn't broadcast. They didn't see anything. They didn't know anything about it. And I said, this was in downtown Los Angeles with wires and bombs and stuff coming hanging out of the door of this big truck and all this. And so I asked my friend in Washington, I said, how is it that United Press International, Associated Press, and all of the middle distribution for media, how is it that they obviously didn't even pass that through? And this was at a point in time, after the Oklahoma bombings and all that stuff, and the Murrah building.
Internet wasn't big yet, and she said Operation Mockingbird.
There was none. So, but the point was, she simply told me that for several years, progressively, the people that were doing the New World Order move on America had been placing totally prepaid employees at the highest level of management. These were the guys that would say, this story goes out to public, or this story just stays as a little local thing. And so they had totally implanted the control mechanism, and that was how they were able to keep stories from the West Coast, from the East Coast, and what have you, and maintain control.
And, of course, you separately learned about that, but that came out in the church hearings in the 70s about Operation Mockingbird. But,
right.
but now what are they going to do?
That was, yes, that was earlier, Claude.
Sure. What are they going to do now, though? They don't control all the talk radio. I know they don't control me. They don't control the news sites. But still, I see stuff where it's a huge news story. You never see it on mainline news. That's why they want the internet kill switch and want to shut down radio with the fairness doctrine.
Right, and basically, I want to point this out to everybody that's listening also. When they do the martial law, there will be no more internet. You can kiss that goodbye.
That's the internet kill switch. They admit that.
That's right. And whether they've got it, in other words, whether they have the quote-unquote legal capability to do that, that will have nothing to do with it. It will be an executive order. That makes it legal. They're going to throw the switch, and we will no longer have our internet.
Even 3.5 years ago with the swine flu, you can pull this up, White House considered redirecting sites to CDC. It was in mainstream news. We can pull that up for people. They actually said, Bob, they looked at redirecting everything, the entire web or portions of it, to a government announcement about to protect yourself from the flu. So they admit they have, and notice a few months ago, Obama signed a cyber order, but told Congress they can't see it. I mean, that right there is a dictator.
It's unbelievable. It has grown and grown and grown. We warned people very specifically in the early 90s. People thought we were absolutely crazy. And by the way, there are still, I don't know how to even say this, there are weapons and things going on at a high level, an extraordinary high level of technology that we still don't have a a good handle on. In other words, we know they have lasers, we know they have microwaves, we know they have A, B, and C, and D, and we have pretty good exposés on some of that stuff.
I remember people 5 years ago saying the new census would be to mark our front doors to fire missiles at us, and then a few years later they did the census and they marked our doors, and then now they've admitted they are using the marking for drones, and they're going to use and are using predators and reapers in our skies, and they're going to launch 30,000 already paid for against us, and then police officers are confirming it. I mean, it is cuckoo, crazy takeover because they hate us. They want to have their way with us, Bob.
Yeah, and it also becomes a bigger challenge. You know, it's I'll tell you what, the psyche of these people who are
That's
totally
why I wanted to get you on. Let me stop you.
Sure.
You worked in and around Congress and were around the intelligence community and blew the whistle on this stuff. What is the psyche? Because they were bad 30 years ago, 20 years ago, but now it's just amazing.
They're nuts. Absolutely off of their rockers. I've met these guys. I had one general, you know, I was involved with a $24 million lawsuit filed by the Christic Institute, and that was right in the middle of the Iran-Contra stuff. Actually, was prior to by about a year or so the actual filings, and it was and basically it was the Iran-Contra stuff, drugs, dope, murder, weapons, and all of that stuff, and all the exact people that later were dragged through the hearings, which didn't accomplish anything. But one of those generals, in reference to myself and other people that were involved with witnessing, he said, boy, if I was in Vietnam right now, I'd blow that. And then he used vulgarity that I won't even use, a three-letter vulgarity for describing myself and other witnesses. And those guys were in bed with Pablo Escobar and all the rest of these guys.
They're drug dealers. Now they run little kids, snuff films, and then they sit around and they actually sit around and go, I'm a veteran. I fought in a war. I am the good guy. They actually think they're the good guy. We put cancer viruses in your vaccines because we're good. I mean, they're just, they're all, because the worst, most murderous ones are the ones that trough their way up to the head of the line.
Yeah, the problem is so many of them start out. I think they start out okay. You know, it's that same old story. It doesn't help the end product, but they start out doing the thing right, etc. And then next thing you know, it's money and drugs and power and the power control. This nutcase that came in and took over my business to use it as a covert front. He had several businesses. Took another guy for, took another fellow for $13 million a couple of years after.
Yeah, that's the thing. Why? Because I've studied this in mainline declassification. They come in, they say they're doing a merger with a shipping company. Then they go, hey, by the way, we're CIA. Here come the generals. Here come the computers. We're going to use you as a front.
Absolutely.
And then they don't even pay you and say, we'll just kill you if you don't shut up. And then they have their wives killed. They're just a bunch of psychopaths.
Oh, that's what they did with me. And when I was at the high point of blowing the whistle after like a couple of years, where I actually was having phone calls on a regular basis from Senator John Kerry and other people at my work, because I still had to I still had to feed my family. I'm in there at 9 o'clock in the morning one day, and a guy drove his station wagon right through my sliding glass doors in Orlando, Florida, missed killing me only because the rear wheels of the wagon hung up on the curb right there with him.
Oh, yeah, that's their favorite way, is with cars.
Yeah, it was just an accident. It was an accident. And a week prior to that, we'd run a guy off that was videotaping the property. What he was doing was videotaping the property ahead of this guy making his erroneous...
but I'm sure they'll be much nicer once they get our guns, Bob.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But they... When we talk about their psyche, this individual that took over my business... He was crazy, but he was successful at what he was doing for the government. He was supplying weapons and helicopters and aircraft all over the world for all of these variety of like if he was still alive now, he'd be doing it for everything that's in the Mideast right now.
Syrian rebels.
Yes, all of it. All of that stuff. He would have been involved within Libya and all the rest of that because he was back then involved all over the world with this stuff. And he was such a loose cannon. He carried his stuff like in a paper bag. He had like 6 or 8 or 10 passports, which of course is totally illegal for anybody except the CIA. Different countries' names and people and all that stuff. Big boxes of money, had cash. You couldn't imagine the money that...
Believe me, I know. I have a, let's just say great uncle. It's really a great cousin. But anyways, the whole story is he was an Army officer. And all he's told us was, he said, yeah, I did all this stuff in covert operations, so then they bring me in. They go, well, here's your graduation in the CIA. Yeah. And it was dealing drugs and killing people in Chicago. And he said, I'm not going to, he didn't tell us much more. The point is that the thing is, then I know other people who have done, this is like, it's not like a big deal to work for CIA. It's like working for UPS, except they're running around killing people. It's a giant operation worldwide.
As soon as I filed with my lawyer, started to pursue what would have been just standard legal thing, really a contractual thing. I couldn't forget it. I knew, what can I do against Uncle Sam? But I filed a standard legal action, started getting information with my lawyer to simply sue this guy to get the $250,000 he owed me, which back then was a lot of money. Okay, and I get a certification came from executive orders of the President of the United States. The information that we were pursuing was classified. He was talking about my toy factory. So they basically classified my toy factory with a big rubber stamp that said secret classified operation, no more information will be coming, and no court will handle your case. You can't go anyplace if you got the CIA tells the local judge.
And what's incredible, Bob, is they now are going to fully gut the country and bring it all down and rob us like a third world nation. Bob Fletcher, investigations.com. Amazing. Look forward to having you back on very soon. They are trying to move on us right now, but if we get the word out like Bob did, we can back them off again.